retreats to the corner of the lab to look up drywalling techniques on the internet whenever his real family drops by to see him.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live. It is Free Talk Live. The phones are open. If you want to join us here, the number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Joining you in the studio tonight, it's Ian,
Matt,
and Bonnie.
By the way, I did have a gentleman call in just before the show to ask if we had heard that Adam Kokesh is out of jail. And yes, we have heard that. In fact, we have Adam booked for an interview coming up on Saturday night. So if you want to hear directly from the source as to what had happened to him over the last 2 weeks of him being imprisoned in some cruddy little county in Colorado, the good news is they dropped the charges. So case dismissed.
Oh my God. I didn't hear that. That's fantastic news.
It's great news.
It's crazy.
Now, Bonnie had asked, well, he's not here yet, so I can presume that it's because they didn't want to go up against him. They didn't realize they were dealing with an activist and a network of supporters, and they...
Constant phone calls.
And also dealing with a religious use of psychedelic mushrooms.
For veterans.
For a veteran, yeah. So, I mean, did they really want to bring that in front of a jury? I guess not. And they decided relatively quickly that they didn't.
Chickens.
So they dropped the charge.
What awful human beings they are.
And there are some court cases out there that support the right of an individual to use a psychedelic mushroom specifically for spiritual, religious purposes, including in New Hampshire, where actually it was about a year ago that the New Hampshire Supreme Court came out with a very strong ruling, unanimous, saying that New Hampshire not only the New Hampshire Constitution specifically is stronger than the United States Constitution on freedom of religion, and the way that it's stronger is the U.S. Constitution protects your freedom to have a religion. The New Hampshire Constitution protects your freedom to practice your religion.
That's so interesting. I never heard that. And it's kind of to bring the illicit substances into the religion. It's surprising to me that New Hampshire protects that, because the one thing I did notice about New Hampshire when I moved here is it's a little bit prudish.
Yeah, it's a little conservative in the governance, and it's certainly behind the ball as far as marijuana decriminalization and that sort of thing. But I mean, what happened was there was a dude who got arrested for using and possessing psychedelic mushrooms. The state police prosecuted him. He was convicted at the Superior Court level. He appealed it to the Supreme Court of New Hampshire, and he won that case.
Good
like
for
I said,
him.
Unanimous decision. He's a member of the Oklavuha, and I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that, but it's an Indian name from the west, I believe, of the United States. I think they started in like Arizona.
So this guy in
Utah.
New Hampshire was a part of them?
Correct.
Oh.
Yeah, anyone can join the Oklavuha Psychedelic Church. I don't think they call themselves a psychedelic church,
Right.
but that's sort of what they're known for. They've actually fought this in the past in other courts. But if you go to the Oklavuha website, they list their legal sort of history, and one of like 5 things that they have on their site is that New Hampshire Supreme Court case. So to that church, this New Hampshire Supreme Court decision is a major decision as far as the sort of positive decisions they've had nationwide. And, when I was looking through that list, my thought was, well, how many other Supreme Courts have had similar decisions? They didn't list any others. So
And Adam Kokesh is part of that one, right?
Correct.
That
Adam
church?
is part of the Oklavuha church. So they have some specific factors that need to come into your use of the psychedelic mushrooms. Like, you're supposed to do it in private. You're supposed to do it safely or whatever. There's a few different things that I don't have the list in front of me, but like, you're not supposed
Sounds
to
like
give
good
it to,
ideas.
You're not supposed to give it to children. Like, there's a certain list of things that you have to agree to in order to be a member of the church. And so Adam's a member of that church, and I guess the prosecutors in the case looked up Oklavuha Church because Adam refused to appear in front of the judge. He instead sent a handwritten message to the judge in this case because he wasn't even arraigned. is they let him out of jail before the arraignment even happened. They didn't want to arraign him unless he would physically appear in front of the judge. So instead, he just wrote a letter saying, here I am. Here's what I'm going to do. He basically said, look, this is my religion. And all of a sudden, less than 2 weeks later, charges are dropped. So we'll have him on Saturday. We'll talk about it. And your question, Bonnie, I think you had two good questions last night. One of them was, did they give him the mushrooms back?
Oh, good question.
Yeah, that was one of them. And
I think I asked, did he get his apology?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the apology is the cream on top.
Right, he was
there.
refusing bail until he could actually get a written apology from the agents.
That's so beautiful. I hope he got one.
Yeah, I highly doubt it. But if they're dropping the charges, you got to get out of the.
I mean, you'd also have to assume
cage.
that they know how to read and write.
Exactly. So you want to bring up whatever's on your mind, whether it's psychedelic medication or spiritual journeys or whatever you want to talk about. I know, Bonnie, you wanted to discuss the Tiananmen Square cover-up that continues to this day. I mean, this was 1989 or something when Tiananmen Square happened. And the Chinese government is still working hard to prohibit the Chinese people from finding out about this particular historic event that many of us remember. And it's one of those images that just burns into your mind.
I was 14 years old, and I'll never forget. I think that may have actually had something to do with me going down the path I did politically. I was a good Republican child until I saw that. And that, back then I believed in freedom still. And when I saw that, freedom took on a kind of a different definition. Like, I didn't understand that the Chinese people, the communists, are so iron-fisted and totally controlling of everybody and everything in their society. You can see that one little man run out in front of that army tank, and it spoke.
Yeah, just a man with a briefcase, right? Just standing in front of
it was like a grocery bag.
Groceries.
Oh, is it groceries?
He wasn't even a part of the. He wasn't even really a part of the
counter protest.
The counter protest until he was in the moment and found himself in the middle of it, and he saw army tanks coming and ran out. He just out to get groceries for his family, and he ran out in front of that army tank and stopped it. Stopped the whole line of them.
No one knows who he is. He's never been identified. You said dead?
Oh, he's almost certainly,
but we still don't know. He's just known as Tank Man.
Tank Man.
And that particular event is prohibited information in China. And Bonnie, you've got a story about that tonight. So what is going on with Tiananmen Square? What's the latest?
Well, the monument that was there is now gone. This is from Hong Kong Free Press. University.
Well, it wasn't there. You mean it was in Hong Kong?
Oh, yeah, in Hong Kong.
Right, yeah.
University of Hong Kong removes Tiananmen massacre monument in dead of night. Security staff surrounded the site as the view was obscured with curtains and plastic barriers around 11 p.m. The move was reportedly approved by the institution's ruling body. Workers at the University of Hong Kong removed the Tiananmen massacre monument late on Wednesday night, months after the university said the statue must go.
Wow.
I'm looking at pictures over here. Yeah, it's like them covering up. They covered it up with plastic first. Views of the area were obscured with curtains and plastic barriers around 11 p.m. Construction noise could be heard as the area was cordoned off without notice and surrounded by security guards.
I've never seen this monument before. I just now went looking for it, and
is it like pink or flesh colored?
Yeah, it's very disturbing. Actually, when I heard Tiananmen Square monument, I thought, oh, it's going to be a monument to Tank Man. No, it's a monument to the victims of the massacre at Tiananmen Square, which is the part that doesn't get as much coverage, and it's essentially like this. I don't know if you want to describe it.
It's like a mound, like an obelisk of human bodies.
Humans, yeah, like an ex nihilo kind of artistic, just horrifying sculpture of just, I don't know if they're screaming or whatever. I'm not looking at a close-up photo of it, but, just tortured, awful bodies. I mean, wow, just horrifying.
It's interesting because there once was a communist rock band that's very popular, and one of their lyrics goes, "Bury the past, rob us blind, and leave nothing behind." Right? Rage Against the Machine said that.
Oh, okay.
And all I have seen are left-wing, communist, socialist type people in the world today burying the past and robbing us of our history.
So we can talk more about what's happening with the Tiananmen Square massacre statue. I imagine it has been destroyed by the Chinese government here because, for those that don't know, China took back over Hong Kong more than 20 years ago, and they're buttoning up the shop. We're coming up here. This is Free Talk Live. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Brute force, intransigent defiance, adamantine will. These are the hallmarks of the AI tank. These gigantic machines have the firepower of an army, but they also have their own sense of honor and duty. When the world breakers arrive, battle will be joined, planets will shake, and war and peace will never be the same again. World Breakers. Stories from David Weber, Larry Correia, and more. Available August 3rd from BaneBooks.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit shiresociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at shiresociety.com. That's shiresociety.com. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live, and you can bring up whatever you want to talk about. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Free Talk Live is brought to you by Bitcoin.com. You can get over there and click Get Started if you're brand new to the world of cryptocurrency like Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. And you will be presented with some introductory videos, one of which I think the first one is all of 3 minutes long. So you don't have to spend a whole lot of time to get down some of the basic concepts that you need to learn about when it comes to cryptocurrency. You need to know why this stuff is so much better than the money that has come before from governments, for instance. First of all, cryptocurrencies are not from governments, so that's one good thing in their favor. Plus, they're decentralized. You need to learn about the basics. So get over to Bitcoin.com, click Get Started, and you can do that there. If you're not brand new to crypto, then you can get the latest news headlines from their news site over at news.bitcoin.com. We're going to go to your calls and thoughts. Sam is on the line. We're talking about the massacre in Tienamen Square and a statue that is now being removed or been removed from a university in Hong Kong. Bonnie's got that story. We'll keep that going in a moment. But Sam, you're up. Go ahead.
So I just find it interesting that in the Adam Kokesh case, they didn't even arraign him. Like, I've never heard of that before in any case.
It's because he refused to. He refused to speak.
Oh.
He refused to leave his jail cell, actually. So he spoke in the form of a letter to the judge that was delivered at the second attempt to bring him into the arraignment. But guards came to his jail cell, attempted to, hey, all right, it's time to go to your court hearing. And he just didn't leave his cell. And they weren't going to make him, apparently. So, like here, there was a time when Lauren Canario, who was one of the earliest movers here for the New Hampshire Free State Project, she's a much smaller little lady. Like, she's nowhere near the size of an Adam Kokesh. Right. And they would just take her and physically lift her into a wheelchair, because she also refused to cooperate.
That's right.
Wow.
With the police. But they would physically move her into and out of the courtrooms and the jail cells. In Kokesh's case, they just let him sit in the jail. So they would have had an arraignment, but they did not.
But I just find that shocking because I've never heard of a case like that before. And also, too, on the religious liberty front, I've heard about other people doing similar things to like how the way magic mushrooms are handled in that case. There's this group out of North Carolina where literally they're doing their religion to get around the food safety laws from the state.
Like they're making food from home? Is that what they're doing?
So, like, they're packaging meat, but, like, the way that they're doing it, like, the federal government and state government would say it would be illegal to sell. And so they put together this religious membership on purpose to get around it.
Where was this? North Carolina?
Uh-huh.
Nice.
Huh. I wonder, so their religion was founded to get around this? I mean, because that's interesting that it would that's interesting that would hold up in court. Awesome. Have they been challenged in court over this? What is their religion?
They have not been challenged yet.
And do you know the name of their group or their religion? Because that sounds really interesting.
Fork to Food Meat Riot is the name of the website.
Forked Food Meat
Fork
Riot?
to Food?
Yes. Fork to Food Meat Riot. And the name of the founder, her name is Nefi Bali.
I know that the feds were going after the Amish, I think, in Pennsylvania this year because they were selling meat and
milk
they've been
stuff.
doing it for over like 200 years or 150 years. And the government's trying to tell them, oh, it's unsafe the way you guys are doing this. And no customer has ever complained.
Right.
But nobody's ever gotten sick from their meat. But they're not doing it the way the government wants them to. And they were going to fine them something crazy like $10,000 a day until they stopped.
The Amish have been on the forefront of a lot of these things, like raw milk, for instance, and they've fought and they have earned a lot of their freedoms in this case. But as you point out, Bonnie, they just keep on coming. Like the government gang will not leave them alone. So, Sam, I just want to make sure I got this correct. You said it's Fork to Food Meat Riot, R-I-O-T, like a riot?
Yeah, that's the way that they pronounce it, at least in the name of her website.
Huh.
Yeah, I'm looking at it here. Niti Bali, Nitibali, 2 words. It's a 501c3.
Huh.
They actually got 501c3 status.
You know what's great about food that you think is done in an unsafe way? You don't have to buy it.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
That's the funny part. But yet the state doesn't think we can make that choice.
Thank you, Sam, for your call tonight. I appreciate hearing from you. The number, if you want to join us, 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. We're talking about the protests in Tienamen Square, and everybody remembers Tank Man, but there was, a reason why the military was there, and that was due to protesters, student-led protests that were happening. I've got a story here from the BBC about what happened back then. But what's happening right now, Bonnie, is you're saying the Chinese government from Beijing has put pressure on the Hong Kong University there in Hong Kong, which, again, up until, I think, 1997, Hong Kong was ruled by the British. And then their lease ran out, as I understand it. The British walked away from Hong Kong, and since then, the Chinese government has been slowly tightening the noose on that particular area.
And those people are used to a Western influenced way of life too.
Yes.
They are not communists like you and I would think of communism.
It's one of the most probably capitalist places on the planet.
Yeah, they're very
economically
free.
They still win in economic freedom chart rankings. Like the most recent one, they're still on top.
I have a feeling the Chinese will screw that up royally because communists don't know how to do capitalism. They don't understand individual drive or free will. They don't get it.
What else do we need to know, Bonnie, about this situation?
Students are currently on break for their festive period, but John's...
Oh, so they took it down while the students weren't there?
Yep. Mm-hmm. In the dead of night. John's Galashutz, I don't know how to pronounce that, but that's the person who made the pillar. His Pillar of Shame monument has stood on campus for over 2 decades.
Wow.
Though in October, university authorities demanded its removal amid a crackdown on those commemorating the 1989 massacre. In a statement on Thursday, he said, "I'm totally shocked that Hong Kong University is currently destroying the Pillar of Shame. It is my private property, and the sculpture belongs to me personally. I will claim compensation for any damage to the sculpture."
I wonder where this guy lives.
I don't know. His last name looks, Russian or something like that.
But communists don't believe in private property, though.
No, they don't. And he's not going to get compensation from the Chinese government.
Yeah.
I mean, the Chinese courts are going to laugh him out of court. I mean, if he lives in Hong Kong, he's probably going to get arrested.
Oh, right? Yeah, I'm sure. I would imagine.
Yeah, if they're cracking down on anyone displaying anything about the Tiananmen Square massacre in Hong Kong, they're just waiting for somebody to have themselves a protest about this. Because, like they said, they took this thing down while the students were gone because they knew there was a good chance the students would have something to say about it.
It says the university is cracking down on those commemorating the 1989 massacre, but I'm sure that's under orders.
Yeah, just like in America, the universities are controlled by the government anyways.
Yeah.
We're going to continue here, and we can go back to 1989, take a look at what exactly happened at Tiananmen Square, because it is worth bringing that up. Everybody knows about Tank Man, but what about the rest of the story? The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. And when I say everybody knows, I mean everybody outside of China. How well known it is there is a well-kept secret. This is Free Talk Live.
And now, time for something totally different. Intercoin is a project that's working to make crypto mainstream. We use the power of smart contracts to help any community in the world launch their own cryptocurrency. Ever wanted to release your own coin or build your own app to grow your business? Intercoin's team builds apps that have reached 9 million people around the world. And now it's time to help make a real social impact in your local community. Go to intercoin.org and join the movement. That's intercoin.org.
When we first started Intercoin about 3 years ago, we had a big vision to help every community in the world have access to the same tools that large states and federations do, to hold local elections on the blockchain, to have their own local currency, shop local, hire local, and help fight the forces of globalization that have decimated some of these communities.
Go to intercoin.org and join the movement.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. New data in the UK suggests people testing positive for the Omicron variant of COVID-19 are 70% less likely to require hospital treatment than people who tested positive for the Delta variant. Research by the UK Health Security Agency has also found the effectiveness of COVID-19 boosters starts to wane 10 weeks after vaccination. Britain's Health Secretary called the data on hospitalisations promising, but Dr. Danny Altman, Professor of Immunology at Imperial College London, says Omicron still poses a huge threat to Britain this winter.
Yes, to have a version of the virus that's massively more transmissible, but with a 50 to 70% less chance of landing in hospital, is good if you're a vaccinated and boosted person assessing your risks, but still puts us in a terrible place for the NHS over the winter.
More than 119,000 people tested positive for COVID in the UK in the last 24 hours, the highest number in a single day since the start of the pandemic. The National Health Service is already enduring staffing shortages, so rapidly is Omicron spreading. Meanwhile, it's emerged in the United States that President Biden still hasn't signed a contract to purchase $500 million desperately needed rapid test kits that he pledged will be distributed free of charge to Americans starting next month. At the White House, Press Secretary Jen Psaki.
We have no concern about the contract being finalized. We're just working to finalize the contracts. We just announced this 2 days ago. We don't see any issue or any halt to getting that done.
But she was again unable to say when the website Americans will use to apply for the tests will go live, nor how many kits of the 500 million will be available next month. A jury in Minnesota has found a former police officer guilty of first-degree manslaughter in the killing of motorist Daunte Wright. Police officer Kim Potter claimed she thought she was reaching for a taser when she shot Mr. Wright in April. Keith Ellison is Minnesota's Attorney General.
We know that he loved his mom, he had his whole life in front of him, and he could have become anyone. All of us miss out on who Daunte could have been.
Sentencing will take place in February. The American writer and novelist Joan Didion has died at the age of 87. She'd been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. She came to the fore in the 1960s with a series of journalistic dispatches from California for Life magazine and the Saturday Evening Post. Two early collections of essays, Slouching Towards Bethlehem and The White Album, catapulted her to prominence. She was influenced by the works of both Ernest Hemingway and Joseph Conrad, and her novel, Play It As It Lays, was turned into a film in 1972, starring Tuesday Weld and Anthony Perkins. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live. Phones open here if you want to join us. You can do that. By the way, I want to say thanks to Ghost of McAfee, who is one of our supporters. He, or she, I guess he, since Ghost of McAfee, is a gold level amplifier, or he's joined the AMPS program over at amps.freetalklive.com. It helps us advertise, market, promote, and support Free Talk Live. Helps us continue the mission of spreading the ideas of liberty and peace around the planet and the United States specifically. We've got over 190 radio stations now with Free Talk Live. We can hit 200 and 250 and 300. It is possible, but it does take some effort, it does take some money. So appreciate you guys supporting us, like Ghost of McAfee over at amps.freetalklive.com. We've been talking about the Tienamen Square massacre, Tank Man, and the monument, this absolutely grotesque monument, but it was a grotesque event.
Supposed to be, the grotesque.
Yeah, this grotesque monument at the Hong Kong University was quietly whisked away in the middle of the night.
While the students were gone on holiday.
Right.
So not only did they do it in the middle of the night, they did it when the students weren't there in the middle of the night. They wanted nobody to find out about this.
Yeah, well, people found out, obviously, after it was gone, but they didn't want any counter-protesters there or, like young people standing in the way of the bulldozer or whatever the hell it was that they used to take the thing down. So, Bonnie, was there more that you wanted to share about the story?
Yes, this next quote from the sculptor shows that
he's mad. He says it's his private property and he wants compensation.
Yeah, but I think this next part of the quote kind of shows that he doesn't fully get it. It is a disgrace and an abuse that shows that Hong Kong has become a brutal place without laws and regulations, such as protecting the population, the arts, and private property. And it's even more grotesque that they use the Western holiday Christmas to carry out the destruction of their artwork. My point of saying maybe he doesn't get it is he thinks like, oh, we need more laws and regulations to protect my artwork. I don't know.
From the people who make laws and regulations. Maybe he's speaking in terms of rights.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people think that government should exist to protect rights. I mean, that's sort of the fantasy about government.
Right.
So, I mean, of course he doesn't get it as far as, obviously he's not an anarchist or a voluntarist or whatever, but he's certainly not wrong of the belief system, from his belief system, that government should be protecting my private property, not destroying it. I mean, that in theory is what they're supposed to do, but not obviously the Chinese government.
Totally childlike naivete at that point.
No doubt. I mean, and certainly, as you pointed out in the last segment, Matt, the Chinese government is the least likely, or one of the least likely, to protect private property. They don't believe in it.
Yep.
So,
communists.
Sorry. I mean, it sucks what's happening to Hong Kong, but I don't see any easy way out of this situation.
Isn't it insane that an entire country can rent in another country for decades on end and then just terminate the lease? And
I don't know if renting it was the right word. I don't know what the original
well, use the word
arrangement
lease,
was.
and
yeah.
it basically was. It's kind
really
of what
crazy.
it was. It's kind of a lease.
Yeah, I don't know the history of Hong Kong, so I don't know how they got that deal in the first place.
Yeah, I don't either.
I just remember when the lease ran out. You know, I was a teenager then, so I found out about it.
It'd be great if no other country controlled them from far away and they just got to control themselves.
Yeah, if they got to be their own place, little free place on the planet. Because, again, the economic freedom in Hong Kong is unsurpassed. It is still, to this day, the most economically free place, at least according to the Economic Freedom of the World studies that are being done by the Fraser Institute.
I just wonder what 100-story tall tenement buildings are going to look like. And, you know, now they're office buildings, but those will be run-down tenements.
Ooh, once the commies fully take over?
Yeah, give it 15, 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Well, outgoing chief of the university's ruling body, Arthur Lee, said last week that it was not quite clear who owns the Pillar of Shame. We're still investigating. However, Galshiot, the sculptor, has told HKFP, Hong Kong Free Press, that he has repeatedly asserted his ownership to HKU via his legal team but was ignored. I believe it is important to preserve the history of any country, and I am therefore sorry that my monument, which is a memorial to the events at the Tienamen Square, 1989 in China, is no longer welcome. He wrote in an open letter passed to the university and his Hong Kong legal team last month.
Apparently he's Danish, so that suggests that he may not live in Hong Kong, but of course Hong Kong is a very international city, and there are people from all over the world that live there.
HKU has also ignored questions about Galshiot's claims when contacted by Hong Kong Free Press. The 8-meter-tall statue of bodies twisting towards the sky was the site of annual ceremonies to commemorate the victims of Beijing's bloody crackdown on protesters in the summer of 1989.
It's a 24-foot high statue. It's huge.
It's like an obelisk of
terror.
Terrified bodies.
The head of the journalism school at HKU, Keith Richburg, tweeted in the early hours of Thursday, the day that they did it, "Don't do this." But they did it anyway.
Oh, yeah.
It looks like the rest is just like history of the statue.
Yeah, and so I was kind of interested in the history of the event. According to the BBC, in the 1980s, the Communist Party began to allow some private companies and foreign investment. At the time, their president Deng Xiaoping hoped to boost the economy and raise living standards, but the move brought with it corruption while at the same time raising hopes for greater political openness. At the time, the Communist Party was divided between those urging more rapid change and the hardliners wanting to maintain strict state control. In the mid-1980s, student-led protests began, and those taking part included people who had lived abroad and been exposed to new ideas and higher standards of living. In spring of '89, the protests grew with demands for greater political freedom. Those protesters were spurred on by the death of a leading politician, Hu Yaobang, who had overseen some of the economic and political changes. He had been pushed out of a top position in the party by political opponents a couple of years prior to that. Tens of thousands of people gathered on the day of Hu's funeral in April of 1989, calling for greater freedom of speech and less censorship. In the following weeks, protesters gathered in Tienamen Square, with numbers estimated to be up to 1 million at their largest.
Whoa.
The square is one of Beijing's most famous landmarks. What was the government's response? Well, at first, they took no direct action against the protesters. Party officials disagreed on how to respond, some backing concessions, others wanting to take a harder line. The hardliners won the debate, and in the last 2 weeks of May, martial law was declared in Beijing. On the 3rd and the 4th of June, troops began to move toward Tiananmen Square, opening fire, crushing and arresting protesters to regain control of the area. And so, how many people died in the protests? No one knows for sure how many were killed. I mean, the Chinese government doesn't give accurate numbers, so you can't trust what they said.
They don't even admit that it happened.
Well, at the end of June of 1989, the Chinese government did say that 200 civilians and several dozen security personnel had died. Other estimates have ranged from hundreds to many thousands. Do the people in China know what happened? Discussion of the events that took place in Tiananmen Square is highly sensitive in China. Posts relating to the massacres are regularly removed from the internet and tightly controlled by the government. So for a younger generation who didn't live through the protests, there is little awareness about what happened. And they do, of course, mention Tank Man here. On June 5th, a man faced down a line of tanks heading away from the square. He was carrying 2 shopping bags and filmed walking to block the tanks from moving past. He was pulled away by 2 men. It is not known what happened to him, but he's become the defining image of the protests. So it's probably not a secret amongst older Chinese what happened on that day, but it's definitely something the government gang is doing the best they can to shove down the memory hole. And this is part of that process, getting rid of the monument at the Hong Kong University. Just a tragic story.
I think it's pretty obvious they're trying to move into Hong Kong now, so they want to get the population there to be just as brainwashed, and they're taking little steps like getting rid of the monument.
Yeah, and it's going to take, generations before people finally forget about it, because ultimately the people who remember it will have to die off and be replaced by no one. But, word does
if these
spread.
aren't people who are programmed to willingly forget things by edict.
There's more coming up here. You can share your thoughts with us. And we get some creepy stuff coming up in U.S. legislation in your vehicle that Matt will tell us about on the way.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country.
Yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market. Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing. To be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project early movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. FTL20 mymagicmud.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live listen line, 641-793-0191.
Are you making sense to the boomer mindset? I'm Holland Cook from survivalspeech.com. 80 million baby boomers comprise 25% of the population and control most of the USA's wealth. As aging parents pass on, they'll control more. Boomers are 46 to 65 years old and regard themselves as midlife. They identify as neither young nor old. They're post-minivan and pre-retirement, and they don't like being called boomers. They think me. Many of the purchases boomer couples make are individual purposes. They've been experimenters all their lives. If you want their attention, tell stories and keep it simple. If something seems complicated, boomers can dismiss it as, I don't need this. And if you're looking for work, you may be applying to a boomer, so relate accordingly. From survivalspeech.com, I'm Holland Cook.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. Phones open here if you want to join us. The number is 603-283-6160. We're talking about Hong Kong and the sculpture that is no longer in existence. I presume they've destroyed it. Either that or, somebody put it in their personal collection. A 24-foot tall pillar of just torturous pain, basically. A horrifying sculpture.
That's a good way to put it.
That is there or was there for 2 decades to commemorate, and I don't know if commemorate's the right word because that's usually like a kind of a positive
to help
memory.
people remember.
Yeah, to look back on what happened in 1989 at the massacre of Tienamen Square. Now the Chinese government has stripped that from the University of Hong Kong. And I was just looking into the past, the history here over at the Wikipedia article because, when we were talking about the lease that the British had on the island of Hong Kong, I didn't know what the history was. Like, how did they end up getting that? What was the story there? I knew at the time when it was ending that it was a 99-year lease, but I didn't know anything about it. And according to the brief history here, in the 1800s, Hong Kong became a colony of the British Empire after the Qing Empire in China ceded Hong Kong Island from Xinan County at the end of the First Opium War in 1841. And the colony expanded to the Kowloon Peninsula in 1860 after the Second Opium War and was further extended when Britain obtained a 99-year lease of the new territories in 1898. And so what is it now? According to the story here, it is now what is called a Chinese Special Administrative Region. So it's not quite yet a Chinese city. It's not the same thing as every other Chinese city.
Well, they can march their soldiers in there at will anytime and enforce the will of the Chinese dictators on those people.
They can, but there is an interesting detail here. The colony, it says, faced an uncertain future as the end of the new territory's lease approached. And Governor Murray McLeos raised the question of Hong Kong's status with Deng Xiaoping in 1979. Diplomatic negotiations with China resulted in the 1984 Sino-British Joint Declaration, in which the UK agreed to transfer the colony in 1997, and China would guarantee Hong Kong's economic and political systems for 50 years after the transfer. So that's why they haven't done a complete crackdown on Hong Kong yet. That's why Hong Kong is still number one as far as economic freedom is concerned, because it sounds like more or less the Chinese government is honoring this particular Sino-British joint declaration, saying, all right, you got 50 years where you can kind of keep things going the way they've always been, and now we're about halfway through that 50 years. And so now they feel comfortable enough getting rid of a sculpture. And they've been, of course, doing crackdowns against some of the protests that have, some of the student-led pro-democracy stuff that's been going on over there in the last few years. The impending transfer of power triggered a wave of mass immigration. That's leaving Hong Kong. Emigration, as residents feared an erosion of civil rights, the rule of law, and quality of life. Over 500,000 people left Hong Kong during the peak migration period from 1987 to 1996. So a bunch of people left before the Chinese government took back over. And I suspect that is continuing today, where if you can get out of Hong Kong, it's time to what's coming.
I was going to say, I wonder how easy it is during COVID
to leave.
Yeah.
Good question. Yeah. It was Hong Kong where that first got shut down. Remember back in February of 2020?
That's right.
I was about ready to travel to go visit Mark in Saipan, and my layover was in Hong Kong. So I was going to fly from wherever the hell it was in the U.S. to Hong Kong and then fly to Saipan, which is an island that's in the region. And I could not do it because my flight was canceled due to the Hong Kong airport being shut down.
This should all be a very good lesson for everybody who doesn't live in New Hampshire. If it's time to pull the plug on where you live, then do it. And you can't wait another 5 years or 10 years because you don't know what's going to happen in the next couple of years, the next 5 years. If you can travel now, now's the time to travel. So do it.
Yeah,
actually, go to U-Haul and go.
Vin Armani, who's now known as Cyprian on Twitter, he said this over a year ago. He said, if you are not now in the place where you would like to be for the rest of your life, you should get to that place as soon as you possibly can.
How is it? I mean, it's not a big step for them to go from you're not allowed to go into McDonald's without proof of vaccination to you're not allowed to leave your state due to COVID.
That's right.
It's not a big step at all.
Or just put you in a camp, and then you can't leave the camp. Right?
Some very interesting side note, very interesting language coming out of the New York State legislature this week. I don't have it right in front of me, but they were talking about locking down certain people, not locking them down, but going around and scooping them up.
Yeah, we were talking about that. 416, it's like House Bill A416 or something like that.
What it turned out was that it was a bill that was filed actually at the beginning of last year and was tabled and is still, quote unquote, on the table with that committee.
That committee is meeting January 5th, so we have like an alarm to remind us to go check and see if they passed the camp bill.
But the other part about that was that it was actually introduced years ago. So it's been reintroduced. This is like the third time that this particular bill or some variant of it has been introduced. So the bill itself isn't actually new. It was during, was it Ebola?
Yeah, Ebola. It's terrifying that it wasn't immediately, shot down by everyone who heard anything about it.
Can you believe that any such language is being put in front of any legislature inside the United States?
Absolutely, I can believe it.
And it's New York State, it's not just New York City. That's what's really scary.
Yeah,
correct. The Legislative Council in Hong Kong became a fully elected legislature for the first time in 1995 and extensively expanded its functions and organizations through the last years of colonial rule. Hong Kong was transferred to China on July 1st of 1997 after 156 years of British rule. Immediately afterwards, Hong Kong was severely affected by several crises. The government was forced to use substantial foreign exchange reserves to maintain the Hong Kong dollar's currency peg during the 1997 Asian financial crisis. And then they had the H5N1 avian flu outbreak, a housing surplus was followed by the SARS epidemic. during which the territory experienced its most serious economic downturn. Political debates after the transfer of sovereignty have centered around the region's democratic development and the central government's adherence to the one country, two systems principle. After reversal of the last colonial-era Legislative Council democratic reforms following the handover, the regional government unsuccessfully attempted to enact national security legislation, and the central government decision to implement nominee pre-screening before allowing chief executive elections triggered a series of protests in 2014, which became known as the Umbrella Revolution. And I presume that nominee pre-screening they're talking about would be that the Chinese central government would have to approve any potential candidates who could be elected to the Legislative Council in Hong Kong. And that's what sparked the protests. Like, hey, you're supposed to stay out of our elections here. We're supposed to have 50 years. But again, like, why you would want to stick around, it seems like this is going to be something that's just not going to work out in your favor. If you're somebody who supports freedom in Hong Kong, you should be looking into getting out of there and coming somewhere in the world where you're welcome.
And I feel bad because it's not easy just to pick up and move to other countries. You have to get the blessing of the other countries and so forth. So these people might just be stuck where they are and there's nothing they can do about it. You can't just wait to the end and then hop on a plane and move.
You may be able to claim asylum. There may be some countries that would give you asylum saying, hey, I'm a political activist in Hong Kong.
Well, who's going to fight China these days?
But you don't have to fight China to
Well, if you're asking a
asylum.
foreign government that relies on China buying its T-bills and so forth, there's nothing saying they're going to accept you.
Yeah.
That's true.
Amazon agreed to change the reviews on Xi Jinping's book recently to all 5 stars.
Are you serious?
Yep.
It's so ridiculous. And that happened.
So China owns the world.
Yeah.
And if they tell the country don't accept our emigres under the auspices of asylum, they probably will start turning away those migrants for asylum purposes.
That's a really scary idea. I don't know if that would be true in the United States because obviously there are people who have escaped China that live here. I mean, I'm thinking Lily Tang Williams, for instance. I presume she was somebody who was looking for asylum, but I don't recall that detail in her story. We've had her on the show in the past. Really excellent libertarian activist who moved here to New Hampshire because she was originally, prior to New Hampshire, living in Colorado. And when she found out about the Free State Project, she's somebody who actually understands and appreciates freedom. And of course, she made a
very
beeline.
high level.
Yeah, she made a beeline to New Hampshire. There's more coming up here. If you want to share your thoughts, the number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. You can bring up whatever's on your mind here. And this is Free Talk Live. Coming up, some creepy stuff the U.S. government gang wants to do in your car soon. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealestate.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Jagruti Dave. A former Minnesota police officer has been found guilty of first-degree manslaughter and second-degree manslaughter in the shooting of an unarmed man during a traffic stop. Kim Potter had pleaded not guilty to the charges. Our correspondent Rachel Silverman has the details.
The former police officer, Kim Potter, claims she meant to pull her taser when she shot and killed 20-year-old Daunte Wright last April. The prosecution argued Potter had more than 2 decades of training, which should have prevented her from making such a mistake. She shot Wright after he tried to flee the scene when police tried to arrest him on a weapons warrant during a traffic stop. It's a rare guilty verdict for a police officer, likely to send her to prison for years.
The UK Health and Security Agency says people catching the Omicron variant of COVID-19 are 50 to 70% less likely to be admitted to hospital than previous variants. Data from other nations, including South Africa and Denmark, also appears to show Omicron may be less severe. Laura Macon-Isherwood reports from London.
Scientists in the UK had been cautious about drawing early conclusions about the risk the Omicron variant of COVID-19 posed to public health. But analysis from the UK Health and Security Agency suggests it could be less severe. In a report, the agency says people catching Omicron are between 50 and 70% less likely to need hospital treatment. But total COVID infection rates continue to rise across the UK, with a new daily record of 119,789 cases reported in the last 24-hour period. It's left ministers urging people to be cautious over the Christmas holidays.
The S&P 500 hit a new record high on Thursday as jitters on Wall Street over the spread of the new Omicron variant subside, and there was a slew of economic data for traders to digest ahead of the Christmas holiday. William Denslow reports from New York.
Recent studies suggesting Omicron is less likely to result in hospitalizations compared to other COVID-19 variants twinned with news that an oral antiviral drug to help fight the virus has gained FDA approval has helped boost sentiment on Wall Street. The US markets closed up on Thursday to mark a third straight day of gains for the major US indexes. The Dow and S&P closed up 0.6% and the Nasdaq 0.9%. Investors were also digesting a slew of economic data out Thursday, including personal spending numbers and weekly jobless claims that matched Wall Street expectations. But a key inflation gauge ticked up more than anticipated, which did dampen sentiment. US markets are closed on Friday for the Christmas holidays.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, a possible breakthrough in the treatment of peanut allergies that can be fatal for those children suffering from them. For the first time in Europe, 600 children in the UK under the age of 17 are to receive a new treatment that gradually reduces sensitivity to peanuts. The manufacturers of Palforzia say it's a pill that contains tiny doses of peanut protein that are gradually increased during the course of treatment. Dr. George Dutoit, a children's allergy consultant, was the UK's senior investigator overseeing recent trials.
The standard care at the moment, if you're diagnosed with a peanut allergy, is a very cautious avoidance of peanut. It means you have to be suspicious of every single meal unless you've prepared it yourself that this may contain peanut. And that takes longer to shop. It's more expensive to shop. Impacts on quality of life. And then families also need to carry emergency medicines, which, it's very stressful carrying around these adrenaline auto-injectors. We're extremely excited that this is the first licensed treatment for the moderation of peanut allergy.
It is an allergy-specific treatment. It's only currently applicable to peanuts, but researchers say they will keep a close eye on the progress of initial recipients of the therapy in a bid both to assess its effectiveness and inform other allergy projects in the future. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
The main headlines again. A former Minnesota police officer has been found guilty of first-degree manslaughter and second-degree manslaughter in the shooting of an unarmed man during a traffic stop. The UK Health and Security Agency says people catching the Omicron variant of COVID-19 are 50 to 70% less likely to be admitted to hospital than previous variants. And the S&P 500 hit a new record high as Omicron jitters on Wall Street subside. And that is the latest from Feature Story News. I'm Jagruti Dave in Washington.
In a competitive tech world, companies are always looking to the latest trend to keep their employees productive and happy at the office. But a new study suggests that employees are actually happiest when they're simply pretending to work from home. The study from tech and consulting giant IBM found employees felt overall more focused and content with their jobs when doing personal tasks like catching up on laundry or their favorite TV shows when they should be working.
I just make sure that I send some emails to my supervisor first thing in the morning so he thinks I'm up and working, but then I just go right back to bed.
I never have to deal with rush hour traffic or anything. I just walk across the room, sit down at my desk, and start browsing through my Twitter feed immediately.
The trend is making its way to the country's most influential tech companies like Google, where employees are encouraged to put in 12 empty hours of work a week from their homes. The study hasn't swayed every company, however. Yahoo CEO Marissa Mayer said in a statement, "At Yahoo, we prefer that our employees pretend to work side by side right here in our offices."
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live, and you can bring up whatever you want as we kick off the second hour of the program. The number here is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Coming up is smartphone addiction causing even more problems than it normally did due to the pandemic or due to the lockdowns. You can share your thoughts with us. You can bring up anything. And in the studio tonight, it's Ian,
Matt,
and Bonnie.
Matt, you had a story about the creepy government gang at the U.S. federal government and this new infrastructure bill that I believe has been passed and signed. It's a done deal, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
We talked a few weeks ago about this bill and the provision that says that by 2026 that there will be DUI checks in every single new vehicle, meaning that you as a driver who has never had a drink before in your life will be subjected to being a suspect as a potential DUI, and you will have to pass whatever this technology is. And they hadn't decided yet at the time that the bill was passed what the technology will be. So they're leaving that up to the Department of Transportation or some bureaucracy to determine what to use. And the news was this is going to be true of every car manufactured. They said it could be as soon as 2026. Now, that was also a kind of a question mark as far as when the final date will be, when this will take effect. But it could be as soon as 2026, where every new car will have at least one, if not more than one form of technology to detect your blood alcohol content and either stop you from, or either let you drive or stop you from even turning the car on.
Yeah, what it sounds like is some type of AI that's going to learn you. And if you drive outside the bounds of what it has learned about you, then it will basically prevent you from turning the car on, or it'll just shut your car off.
So I had heard in the story...
Wait, what would be the point of that? Sorry, like if you're just driving differently that day.
Because if you're driving hammered, it'll sense that you're driving hammered. Or if you're driving when you're too tired, it'll sense that you're driving when you're too tired. And
That's interesting, because I had not heard that one. What they were speculating in the story that we read was that there were a couple of technologies that they were looking at. One of them would measure the blood alcohol content in the air somehow, like to smell for alcohol.
The article I'm reading just is talking about it's passively monitoring the performance of a driver of a motor vehicle to accurately identify whether that driver may be impaired. It doesn't. That's in quotes, so it doesn't say anything about actual air monitoring. Which
that was one idea.
I don't doubt that would be an easy one to
The other
implement.
idea was that there would be some sort of a sensor on the steering wheel that could be, apparently they say that you can measure someone's blood alcohol content through their skin without like piercing the skin, but just like an infrared scan of some sort could actually detect whether somebody has alcohol running through their veins. So the idea would be if your hands are on the steering wheel, it's constantly checking you to see if you've got alcohol in your system.
It seems like another easy one, but the
or all of the above.
The creepy, or all the above, but there's a creepy component to it. Apparently, the legislation leaves open and somewhat names the ability for third parties to have back doors to all the technology that's in the car.
Facebook. They get to control your car.
So a lot of people are worried about like who would the third parties be that had access? Insurance companies, the cops. I mean, if they just don't want you to run away from them, they just push a button on the dashboard of their car and it kills your car on the side of the road.
Can't they already do that with OnStar?
I'm not sure. I would imagine there's some sort of way to do that. No, I know a lot of people.
I swear I've heard that like if you've got OnStar in your system and the cops, like, oh, your car got stolen or whatever, you call the police, they can remotely shut it off.
Yeah, well, that makes a lot of sense.
I mean, the tech's already there. Now they're saying it's going to be in every car.
In every car, and it's not necessarily a voluntary thing whether or not it's going to be in your car. So
you've got to pay for all the stupid mandated government crap. That's why cars one of the reasons, besides inflation, one of the reasons why cars keep getting more expensive. The government gang just keeps saying, oh, yeah, you need to put this in there and that in there, and catalytic converter on up, right?
Yeah. Well put. That said, I think I'm curious. A Rush song comes to mind. And whenever I'm thinking about freedom stuff, Rush songs come to mind. But
isn't he Canadian?
Yeah, the group, they're all Canadian. But Neil Peart wrote most of the lyrics, and he's also a notable Ayn Rand acolyte. But
wasn't there a Trailer Park Boys episode with Rush in it where they're helping him run drugs or something like that?
They were trying to kidnap Alex Lifeson, but they ended up making buddies with him. But anyway, so the Rush song Red Barchetta, it's about a motor law that was passed, and this kid likes to escape the cities to go out to his uncle's farm, where his uncle has preserved this old red sports car, and he likes to take it out for illegal spins, and he gets chased down by the cops, and he leaves him at the riverside because he goes across a bridge that's too narrow for them.
Nice.
But it kind of reminds me of that. It's like, what kind of are we going to be allowed, if we want to get around this type of thing? I have a 1976 Volkswagen Beetle back in New York, right? And
wow.
I love that car. It's a carbureted car. It's about as fast as a lawnmower, but it'll run on just about anything I dump in the gas tank, as long as it resembles gas. And it doesn't ask me any questions. It doesn't have any computers. It's got a cap and rotor. It doesn't have electronic ignition. There's nothing to fry.
Right.
So
it'll survive an EMP, is what you're saying?
Almost.
Okay.
It'll fry some easily replaceable $2 pieces, which I have extras in the glove box anyway. It's a tune-up component that gets killed. So that said, are they going to ban old cars?
That's a great question. I mean, they're not going to do it right out the gate.
Yeah, maybe later down the road.
They need to make it so the mandated cars are going to be in the used car marketplace and starting to filter into those folks, because not everybody can afford to buy a brand new car. Right. But yeah, that's an excellent question, Matt, and I suspect that is in the long-term plans for these people.
There are so many reasons that this is a bad law, obviously just in general freedom perspective and privacy perspective. But also I think that it could cause more harm than good just because technology makes mistakes, for one thing. It could just think you're drunk when you're not. And another thing that comes to mind is me and my friend, we used to go meet completely random people in the town over from us in Utah. And we would go find people to get drunk or high with. Usually,
how would you meet these people?
Walmart parking lots, stuff like that. Well, we lived in such a small town. This is a fun thing to do. So we would meet random people that were going to have a party in the mountains. What if I was just a little drunk and had to get away from those people? I'm not a bad driver drunk. Right. And I'm sure there are people that are like, no, never, not even once. But yeah, I've driven with a little bit of alcohol in my system.
Yeah, that's a great point. You go to some party with some strangers, turns out they're dangerous.
You got to go.
And you got to get out.
and you have a little bit of alcohol in your system.
Your car's like, sorry, get raped instead.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a really
It's
crazy.
terrifying.
That's
I'm
nutty
sure
to
there's
think
plenty of reasons that you would need to get away from a situation. And
The government does
no.
not care about your needs, and
No.
they don't care about your safety at all whatsoever. And if it wasn't for the psycho rapists in the mountains raping you, it'll be the government anyway, because they're all the same psychopaths. They just took different paths in life.
Yeah, and you're talking about a place that's out in the boonies, right? Like, there's nothing out there. The odds that you would even be driving on a road with other cars would be fairly low, right?
Well,
Like,
we
it's
would go
2
to
in
the
the
town
morning.
over that was populated, but yeah, we would drive home
Well, if you're having
largely.
a mountain party, there's not
Okay.
going to be there's people out there.
Well, there would be a good amount of people on that mountain that I was talking about because it's like a pass where people go to party.
Gotcha. Okay.
But then more than 50 minutes home would be like probably seeing no other cars.
That's what I'm saying.
So that's why it wasn't that big of a deal to drink over there and then go home.
Right. Wow. Yeah, scary stuff. And that's just one example of how that somebody could get caught up by this system and actually harmed by it. So, is there anything else we need to know about this, Matt?
Not yet. Well, keep you
It's
posted. I'm watching this one. I don't know. Everybody knows that I'm Monero Matt, and I'm the gun guy, but not everybody knows that I'm a motorhead.
Yeah,
Motorhead
that's
Matt.
true. That's true.
I love turning wrenches, and I love cars, and always have cars, motorcycles, anything with a motor. So I pay really close attention to this because sometimes
you're out
you
of
just want to go fast.
Yeah, and this is going to take you out of the new car market as of 2026, right? The number here is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Of course, we all know that people who are heavy drinkers who find out about this are also never going to buy a car after 2026.
That's right.
So, like, the serious drinkers are going to just avoid this.
I actually do have one more thought on that.
All right, we'll continue.
Come back.
This is Free Talk Live. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
When Monster Hunter International discovers one of Isaac Newton's wardstones being auctioned off, they decide to steal it and use it to destroy the Chaos God once and for all. But a mysterious thief upends their plan, and it soon becomes a race against time as something much older and infinitely more evil awakens in the jungles of South America. Monster Hunter Bloodlines by New York Times bestselling author Larry Correia and Baen Books. Visit monsterhunternation.com for more.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it.
Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Free Talk Live, the show where anyone can call about whatever they want. And we do mean anyone.
He bought a radiation monitor on eBay for like $10.
You got to be kidding me.
A Geiger counter?
Yeah. So I said, let's put some batteries in it and get it fired up. So we fired it up. We started walking
You guys
around.
know how to spend an evening.
Yeah,
Get a
right?
couple of beers and hang out with a Geiger counter.
We were making readings of 10 Roentgens outside the house.
What's that mean? Is that bad?
Yeah, it is.
Is that dangerous?
Yeah, it is.
Really?
Right.
Now, where's the life-threatening one?
100 Roentgens. I'm really concerned now because I've seen...
But you weren't concerned before you got the radiation meter out.
Right.
Now you're definitely going to get cancer, Harry. What's the detector going to do for you, though? Really? I mean, if you're going to die, you're going to die, right?
The guy that just called in about radiation, first of all, you got a Geiger counter off the internet.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
How many lawyers does it take to change a light bulb? None. They'd rather keep their clients in the dark. There are too many lawyer jokes to count. However, there are some lawyers with more noble intentions. At the Institute for Justice, we bring the light to our clients. We are a non-profit public interest law firm with clear values and principles. At IJ, we fight for those whose most basic rights are denied by the government. Visit our website today at ij.org.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live. You can bring up anything here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Here tonight, it's Ian, Matt,
and Bonnie.
We're talking about some of the creepy stuff that the federal government gang wants to do to all new vehicles. And it sounds like they're gonna, because the bill passed. It is one of the things that's in the, I don't know how many thousands of pages the infrastructure bill is, but it's a big one. $1.7 trillion or something like that. The one of the things they're going to do is they're going to put into all new cars as soon as 2026 DUI checks. So they're going to make sure that you don't have blood alcohol content prior to starting a car, and also continually monitor you while operating the car. And we already knew about that. And what you brought in tonight, Matt, that was new information to me, was they're also going to open up cars to be accessible remotely by
third parties.
Certain groups like the police, where if they want to stop you from driving, they can just press a button.
If they want to stop
done.
you from having the wrong political beliefs and trying to get away from them.
Yeah, or whatever. They just don't want you to get somewhere. They will stop you in mid-travel. And you said you had one other thought about this situation.
Yeah, so I was just trying to think of workarounds for that,
Besides just buying old cars?
Yeah, yes and no and yes. So most people probably heard of a Shelby Cobra, old sports car. If anybody's seen Ford versus Ferrari with Matt Damon, the newer movie that came out last year, it was really an awesome job they did on that movie. Carroll Shelby brought together two companies to make an amazing sports car back in the 60s called the Cobra. Had an AC body out of Great Britain, and it had big Ford engines, and they were just fast, insane little fast cars. Well, they stopped making them in 1967. The last Cobra was made in 67. However, today you can still buy a brand new, it's called a continuation car, a brand new Shelby Cobra
in the 1967 format.
You can buy a brand new 1967
like
Shelby
refurbished?
Cobra. No, a brand new.
Who's making them?
A company called Superformance has the rights from Shelby to make those cars.
Does that upset Ford a little bit?
I don't think Ford ever had a say in it.
They're just their engines?
It's a Chevy license thing. They can buy as many Ford engines as they want to put into these things. And they are brand new cars titled as 67s.
Whoa.
Yep. And they don't have to follow emissions because it's a 67.
God.
You don't have to have this kind of, all the safety features and stuff, So it's a 1967. You got a 520 horsepower car.
So it's one of those cars where you can actually pop the hood and reach in there and
yes.
There's not like a ton of crap in there.
Correct. If you want to fuel inject the thing, go right ahead. If you want to load it down with computers and technology stuff, go right ahead. But it's
not coming off the line that way.
You can get it off the line that way if that's how you order it, but you don't
there's
have
options like that?
You can but you can get it with a carbureted 427 side oiler. You can get them with a 390, 351 Windsor.
What does one of these things cost? Like if you're going to do it up old style, like the original.
I saw a used one that was pretty basic. It was a 15-year-old Superformance Shelby Cobra. And
so these guys have been doing this for a while.
Yeah, for a long time.
Okay.
This is a 15-year-old version I saw for sale down in Connecticut. and that was $72,000 they wanted for that. So
brand new. These are over 100. Probably,
yeah, you
right?
can get a Cobra kit car from Factory 5 or some other company that makes. There's 100 companies out there that make Cobra kit cars. They're
What's a kit car?
It's literally just a fiberglass body that looks like a Cobra, and you usually put it on like some other chassis, or you make a chassis for it.
You build the car from scratch.
You build, and it's not ever as good as like an original. It looks the part, but it's not the part. But a Superformance Cobra is a Cobra. It's
That's
a
amazing.
real by design Cobra.
Do these guys sell other old model cars?
They do, and some of them are totally wicked. I'm not sure what the legality around those are. Those might be considered something else, but somehow the Cobras are Cobras.
And these are considered 1967s because what? The plans are from 67?
I'm
the
not
parts
sure
aren't.
what their workaround on that. I've never understood how that all works.
It won't say anything, like if you bought one today, it wouldn't say anything about 2021 on it.
No, it's a 1967 Cobra, or you can get a 63 Cobra. It depends on what body style you want. You can get the older body style, the newer body style. But yeah, so that might be. If that's the way things are going, then I'll take.
Just go back to the past.
I'll take a 1976 Bronco with a 351, or
when
maybe.
Did they start to introduce all the government mandated like catalytic converter? All this
catalytic converters. My 76 Beetle that I was just talking about has a catalytic converter, and that's a 76. And I do believe that was one of the first years where they started requiring
meddling.
that. Yeah, so my Beetle has a charcoal canister and a catalytic converter, and recirculation garbage, and it makes the car run like crap. So I've torn the engine out of that. It's got a 73 engine in it now, which didn't have that.
Okay.
So 73 didn't have it. 76 did have it.
Okay, good to know.
So that's somewhere.
Yeah,
in
I think the used car market's going to get a little more interesting coming up when all these government mandates start cramming into the new cars.
Yep, I agree.
Because it used to just be, under the hood stuff. Most people probably don't know about that.
They don't even
right?
think about it.
They don't know about what's under there. The mandatory black box. I think they've got those now in cars, right?
What's a black box?
History recorder. It'll record things like impact G-forces and things like that, and they can tell how fast you've gone and how high you've revved and how many times you've done that, and the car keeps track of all this stuff. So like in sports cars especially, they want to, if you ever got into an accident that was potentially your fault, all they got to do is plug into the computer of the car and ask it what was going on. And it'll tell them. It can't take a picture of what was going on for them, but it can give them a good idea. Yeah, well, he was sideways at 45 miles an hour, and and when he impacted the school bus, it hit with this many G-forces, which means he was going at least this many miles per hour.
Yeah, so that's another government mandated thing. I mean, you know a lot about cars. Give me a quick rundown. Like what? I mean, it may be an exhaustive list, but what are some of the things that they've been forcing on all car manufacturers for the last?
Well, I mean, we've seen If you ever park, I looked at a 2022 Camaro the other day, brand new Camaro SS, a gorgeous car, looks a lot like the original 1967, 68 Camaros. If you were to park a 67 or 68 Camaro next to that modern Camaro SS, even though they're the same shape, you'll notice that the new Camaro SS is a lot bigger. It's a big, fat, chunky car.
Probably heavier.
And way heavier. And the reason for that is it's all impact zone this and airbag that, and every time you add another nut or bolt to a car, not to mention just the dimensions in order to house it to make it look if you look at a new Porsche 911, it's a 911. It's a shape that's you can identify that shape 100 miles away. Well, if you put a brand new 911 next to even a 2002 911, it's just a huge car compared to the old cars. They're not, and the reason is they have to magnify the size of the car just so they can fit in all the government crap.
It's terrible.
It's totally horrible.
If you want to weigh in, maybe you know a thing or two about the topic, you're welcome to join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. It's not going to get any better either. I mean, these government goons think they know everything about what should be under the hood, and it's just going to keep getting worse.
Yep.
Before you know it, they're not even going to let you drive them anymore.
And the weight of the car destroys your gas mileage.
That's true. There's more coming up here. We got time for you. You want to join us? You can bring up anything that's on your mind. Plus, smartphone addiction. We can get into that. Is it getting worse than it's ever been? You can share your thoughts. The number is 603-283-6160. And a little bit of good news as a Keene police baddie makes a turn for the good. We'll tell you about it coming up.
Doubt it.
Free Talk Live's video archives have been on LBRY for years. LBRY is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of it here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, LBRY launched Odyssey, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it's really taking off, now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line on COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be completely taken down at any moment. Thankfully, Odyssey started offering live streaming, so we're now streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odyssey. You can watch live or anytime on our Odyssey channel by visiting video.freetalklive.com. If you want to go all in, download the desktop app at lbry.com, and then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed and keep it online forever. At minimum, we ask you visit video.freetalklive.com and follow us on Odyssey today. video.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Jagruti Dave. A former Minnesota police officer has been found guilty of first-degree manslaughter and second-degree manslaughter in the shooting of an unarmed man during a traffic stop. Kim Potter had pleaded not guilty to the charges. Our correspondent Rachel Silverman has the details.
The former police officer, Kim Potter, claims she meant to pull her taser when she shot and killed 20-year-old Dante Wright last April. The prosecution argued Potter had more than 2 decades of training, which should have prevented her from making such a mistake. She shot Wright after he tried to flee the scene when police tried to arrest him on a weapons warrant during a traffic stop. It's a rare guilty verdict for a police officer, likely to send her to prison for years.
The UK Health and Security Agency says people catching the Omicron variant of COVID-19 are 50 to 70% less likely to be admitted to hospital than previous variants. Data from other nations, including South Africa and Denmark, also appears to show Omicron may be less severe. Laura Macon-Isherwood reports from London.
Scientists in the UK had been cautious about drawing early conclusions about the risk the Omicron variant of COVID-19 posed to public health. But analysis from the UK Health and Security Agency suggests it could be less severe. In a report, the agency says people catching Omicron are between 50 and 70% less likely to need hospital treatment. But total COVID infection rates continue to rise across the UK, with a new daily record of 119,789 cases reported in the last 24-hour period. It's left ministers urging people to be cautious over the Christmas holidays amid continued concerns that hospitals could be placed under significant strain.
The S&P 500 hit a new record high on Thursday as jitters on Wall Street over the spread of the new Omicron variant subside, and there was a slew of economic data for traders to digest ahead of the Christmas holiday. William Denslow reports from New York.
Recent studies suggesting Omicron is less likely to result in hospitalizations compared to other COVID-19 variants twined with news that an oral antiviral drug to help fight the virus has gained FDA approval has helped boost sentiment on Wall Street. The US markets closed up on Thursday to mark a third straight day of gains for the major US indexes. The Dow and S&P closed up 0.6% and the Nasdaq 0.9%. Investors were also digesting a slew of economic data out Thursday, including personal spending numbers and weekly jobless claims that matched Wall Street expectations. But a key inflation gauge ticked up more than anticipated, which did dampen sentiment. US markets are closed on Friday for the Christmas holidays.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. Phones open. If you want to join us here, number 603-283-6160. We're talking about cars and how newer is not necessarily better. In fact, it doesn't seem like it's better at all. When it comes to cars, because, well, the government goons have been meddling in and under the hood for decades now, and they just keep getting worse with their mandates. We're going to continue with the discussion here. It's Ian, Matt, and Bonnie in the studio. We've also been telling you about how Intercoin can help any business or organization launch their own currency and or raise money using their own token. And now Intercoin has launched its investor token worldwide. And for the first time, it's available on an exchange. You can go and grab some over at xmarkets.com. That's exmarkets.com. And all you need is just an email address to sign up over at X Markets, which is pretty unusual, but that's the way they do it there. And you can trade dozens of different cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin, trade them for Tether, and then buy ITR with your Tether. ITR is the Intercoin Investor Token. You can learn more about the Intercoin vision at intercoin.org and buy or sell ITR on xmarkets.com, exmarkets.com. You just might be advancing the cause of liberty around the world. Let's go to CW. He's in Arizona listening to K-Talks. CW, you're on Free Talk Live. Do we still have CW going once? CW going twice. All right, let's try Hank in Ocala, Florida. Hank, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, glad to be on.
Yes, sir.
I've been working on cars all my life and own my own repair shop. But, the cars keep advancing, and they do record a lot of information that a lot of people driving are not aware of it. And the information's recorded a lot for technicians to be able to repair a car. Well, what was it doing when this happened? And so, like if your airbag goes off, it records the speed, brake, and a lot of other things nowadays on cars. It's easily accessible. In 2026, a lot of cars will drive themselves or come close to it. It may not be fully where you just get it in the car and let it go, but it will be very advanced in the next 4 years.
Yeah, I already have a Kia that kind of does it itself, and that's a Kia.
Which is cheap, right?
Yeah, it wasn't really a cheap car, but it's a cheap car.
That's kind of what Kia is known for, is affordable.
Yeah, and
rides.
it's a great car. I mean, you set the cruise control, and it basically pays attention to the lines for you, and it will go around the bends, and
I was gonna say it makes turns for you. He showed me.
Yeah, I took Bonnie out when I first got it and went out for a ride, and I was like, "Look, Bonnie, no hands," and and it keeps its own speed. It'll slow down if there's a car in front of you. It'll speed up when it speeds up, and after a couple minutes, it'll whine at you and say, "Hey, I'm gonna shut off this stuff if you don't touch the steering wheel." So you touch the steering wheel, and it'll go back to doing what it was doing.
And advance that technology 4 years and see where we're at. Yeah, it's going to be a different world in the future. A lot of it's collision avoidance and safety. And when cars probably do drive themselves and are able to avoid collision avoidance, we'll need less airbags. Biggest thing is, airbags cost a lot of money. All the safety stuff costs a lot of money. And so you pay dearly for it in a car. And until we figure out a better way, and humans are not good drivers, so machines will probably exceed us by long ways in the near future.
Well, that's another concern that I have. I mean, Matt, you brought up the question of once they start rolling out these mandates, mandatory DUI, mandatory we can stop your car anywhere we want. This is going to happen as soon as 2026. Are they going to outlaw older cars within a number of years? And another question is, are they going to outlaw me being able to drive a car, well, of whatever age the car happens to be at some point? Because I'm sorry, I mean, I like computers as much as the next, Zennial, or not, I'm not Zennial, but Gen X. What's X and Millennial? Is that Zennial? Or anyway,
Xennial.
Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, I like the idea of driving and continuing to drive. I enjoy driving, and I don't really want a computer to take.
No,
that task
I was thinking about this earlier. If I want to have kids, if Nikki and I have a kid this year, it's getting 16 years from now when I want to go teach that kid how to drive stick. Am I going to be able to teach my kid how to drive stick, or am I the end of that road?
I want to be able to move a car into a place that is not, where a car is supposed to go if I have to. Like if I have to drive into not that I really think this is ever going to happen, but if I have to drive into the woods to get away from somebody, I don't want my car to be like, you cannot go there.
Right?
Yeah, right.
What do you think, Hank? Is it going to go that direction?
Yeah, to a certain extent, obsolescence gets rid of a lot of cars. People don't want to repair them and maintain them after a certain point.
I do.
Not their car don't have another 20 years in it, but they like something fresh and new. So we replace a lot of the old cars, and you could take states like California, they already penalize you for driving older vehicles. The insurance companies already penalize you. First thing you want to know, if you got a car, does it have airbags? Does it have anti-lock brakes? Does it have a backup camera? Does it have any of these safety features? If not, you pay more in insurance.
You say you've got a car shop that you run?
Yes, sir.
What do you drive personally?
I drive a 2003 Dodge.
Gotcha.
And I got a few classic cars. Yeah, I like to drive them, but it's not my daily drivers.
Are you like me and a lot of other people that are just not interested in these brand new cars that are coming out?
No, I'm not. Number one, that's a big waste of money.
Sure.
You know, it depreciates higher rate than anything else you'll buy. And I see it now. People repair cars more and more because the cost of replacing them is getting to be so expensive.
Yeah, there's
In
that.
the future, electric cars and self-driving cars, I wouldn't buy a new car right now. If I did, it'd probably be electric because I wouldn't want to be the guy stuck with a gas car in the near future.
That's what I'm thinking. I want an old gas car that I can convert to alcohol, because I can get a still and some sugar or corn, grass, and I can make alcohol to dump in that gas tank.
And also, Ford's already offering their electric Mustang motor as a replacement engine for older cars.
I know.
So
I saw that.
A lot of that in the future. I think eventually, this is my opinion, I think we'd be better off. I'd like to have it on my truck if you could buy aftermarket self-driving kit, or at least something like you were talking about your Kia doing, where it follows the lanes and helps you out.
Yeah, it's just got an eyeball built into the rearview mirror.
Yeah.
Thank you, Hank, for the call tonight. I appreciate the expertise. Appreciate hearing from you. Let's continue here. The number is 603-283-6160. You can bring up whatever is on your mind. And there's another co-host of ours, Chris, who's our Friday night co-host. He told me that I think he's got like in a garage somewhere, some car that is identical to, I don't know if it's like the Honda. He drives like a Honda.
Yeah.
I think he's got the same exact car parked in a garage somewhere from like 2002 or whenever the thing was made. And the reason is there was something, and we'll have to ask him about this. Maybe we'll remember to ask him tomorrow. But there was one of those government mandates, and it might have been the black box, where like the car just became so computerized. And he's a computer guy, but he's also a privacy guy.
Yes.
And so when they mandated, maybe it was the black box to go into cars, he said, "That's it. I'm drawing the line right here at this year." And so he
bought another one?
Yeah. So he went out and bought the same exact car and is just like taking care of it, just so when he finally runs his current one into the ground.
I did not know that. That's hilarious.
At least that's what I'm pretty sure he told me that.
I hope he's taking care of it, because cars do not sit around well.
You can't let it sit. But I just thought that was interesting. Like, he drew the line saying, I'm not buying a car newer than this date ever.
I was wondering why he drives that old beater.
Yeah, sometimes I wondered that too.
But there's going to be a lot of people that are going to say, all right, well, I'm just going to keep repairing this damn thing. I don't want to get a 2025 or a 2026, because things are going to get even more evil after 2026. And they start mandating DUI checks inside your car, mandating the technology to allow the police to just stop you anytime they want. The number is 603-283-6160. Oh, you missed a payment. Ford's going to stop you now.
All right.
We're coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
Hi, I'm Derek J. To me, an activist's calling is to actively work to advance a cause. The cause for which I work is personal freedom. I believe my life is best when I engage in voluntary interactions and self-government. I reject the idea that anyone else has a higher claim to my life or my body than I do. I see people who call themselves the government as a threat to my personal freedom. I realize you may feel differently, but my relationship with the people who call themselves the government is completely involuntary. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm. On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
There are basically two types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. The number, if you want to join us here, it's 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Free Talk Live is raising funds for Give Directly, which is the first nonprofit that allows you to give money directly to people living in extreme poverty. They locate recipients that are in need and use mobile money to send them cash, no strings attached. And in the last decade, they've delivered over $400 million to over 1 million people who really needed help. They show, the research shows, that giving cash to people living in poverty can help drive a range of important positive changes in their lives, like access to employment, nutrition, health, and education. In addition, cash allows individuals to invest in what they need instead of relying on aid organizations and donors thousands of miles away choosing for them. So if that's what you prefer, we agree, and that's why Free Talk Live is matching your donations to Give Directly. They're helping, right now, people in Bomet and Kilifi counties in Kenya who are in dire need of assistance. And we will be matching your donations up to a total of $30,000. So if you're feeling generous this holiday season, get on over to give.freetalklive.com and you can help these families in Kenya. That's give.freetalklive.com. Let's go to your calls and thoughts. Vernon, first up in New Orleans, you're on Free Talk Live.
I think that this electric vehicle thing is a complete fad because
Biden. Like this happened whenever Obama was in as the president, green, and then Trump became the president, and it all went back to gasoline. And not only that, I still don't think the technology behind batteries that power electric vehicles are, evolved enough to be able to really support our true driving habits. I mean, I go through a tank of gas a week, that's probably about 420 miles in my current car. Mm-hmm. And if I were to do that, cross country or, just go from one destination to another, I don't even know what the range is for an electric vehicle now, but surely it's not more than 100 miles on a full charge.
They're way over 100 miles now. The Nissan Leaf is approaching 100 miles, and that's just an around town kind of car.
Isn't the Tesla over 100?
Yeah, the Teslas are all over 100, but that's still not. 100 miles is not good enough. Like, think about somebody like me with my job. With my day job, in non-COVID times, when I'm actually visiting my accounts, it's totally possible for me to put 12 or 1,300 miles on in a week. So that's 4 or 5 days worth. I would love to have a Tesla that would do that for me, but it's not going to work. I mean, I cannot possibly cover that amount of territory in an electric car. If I'm going to sit around at some charging station, hopefully there's one where I need there to be one. It's just the infrastructure's not there. The technology's not there. Kia's got a new one coming out. Kia and Hyundai have some of the best electrical technology going right now, and the new Kia is going to get, I think they said it's going to get 276 miles to the charge, which is very respectable. I think we're really starting to get there. There are some high-end electric cars from companies never heard of that are over the 450, 460 per charge, and but
how long do they take to charge up?
So
you're going to get them up to about an 88 to 92% charge, and it's
how long?
It's going to take you like a half an hour, 45 minutes at a supercharger. That is, if you're just trickle charging that thing at your house through
all night.
3-pound, at least all night.
So are you disagreeing that it's a fad?
I'm wondering more about the long-term benefits to the environment, because actually mining the cobalt and the lithium
for the
batteries, and then finding a way to dispose of it, and you try to use some of it over again when when it's all dead and the battery's dead, that is extremely pollutive.
Go ahead, Vernon.
Is that a mileage just on a flat surface if I live in Texas, or is that actually in a hilly terrain? And then not only the other thing, we're using the same battery technology that we've had since the 80s and the 70s. I mean, there haven't really been that big of leaps as far as technology that's used in batteries, right?
That's correct.
Well, I mean, there's definitely batteries
lithium
available.
polymer batteries. I mean, it's still just it's an object that holds a charge, really. But the going up and down the hills is definitely going to make a big difference. Like he's got a point when he's talking about, are you cruising across Kansas right now? Yeah. Are you driving through Vermont?
That's a good question. But I mean, as far as battery technology, are you saying that car batteries haven't changed that significantly? Because obviously we didn't have access to lithium-ion batteries and things like that, which you see in phones and other high-tech devices. Those didn't exist in my recollection back in the 90s. Did they? I don't think they did. So batteries are definitely
they've been mining lithium since the 80s and the 90s. I don't know how prevalent it was, but it's still, I mean, so you, instead of whatever it was used previously to charge with, you just replace it with lithium, when lithium can hold a longer charge, but it's still ultimately the same technology. The battery, itself, is still not holding what I would consider a full enough charge to really warrant giving up a gasoline-powered vehicle. There's no way in the world that I'll probably ever buy an electric car or even a hybrid in the next 10 years unless there are significant improvements in battery technology. Honestly, I think it's a waste of money unless you just drive from your house to maybe work 10 miles here or there a day. But
I don't have time to sit
like me, and you're going, from New Orleans all the way over to Florida, 700 miles. That's a long time.
Yeah, and I don't have the dedication to a technology to sit around a gas station for 45 minutes waiting for a car to charge up.
Yeah, I've had an idea. Consider the size of the battery, and I'll tell you what. Just a side note to the caller, I have a Kia Niro, and I got to tell you, I love the thing. I love the thing.
Wait, that's electric?
It's a hybrid.
Oh,
They
yeah.
do come in an electric version, but it's useless to me. I need the hybrid. But I really, really like the hybrid. So the answer to what your problem is with the hybrid electric thing, go ahead and get the hybrid as like your daily to get you back and forth to work. You'll be happy you did. But why don't you go ahead and grab yourself, a C5 Corvette from the late 90s as well, something with an LS V8 to scratch that itch. And then you got the best of both worlds, an old Chevy pickup with a V8, it'll scratch that itch. So you can still bring your dyno fuel, and it'll do all the dyno fuel things you want it to, and you have a good time doing it. But at the same time, on a daily, you got something that you can beat around and go get the groceries and get 50 miles to the gallon with.
Isn't the cost of maintaining a hybrid vehicle, though, substantially more than just a regular gasoline vehicle as far as maintenance of the batteries and everything?
Hasn't been for me. I mean, I think that's pretty dumbed down at this point. They got the technology in line so far now where it's maintainable, and I own it. I own it under warranty as well. It's a brand new car, so I'm not worried about that. At the same time, I also recently bought an old beater Prius. That thing's got 240,000 miles on it. Runs like a Swiss watch. The battery's fine. The battery components for that, the batteries in one of these cars, they're not just one battery. It's a stack of several batteries. And you can find out, you can go through your battery pack with a multimeter, find out which module's dead, pull it, replace it with another one for $30-$40, I think. Glue it all back together, put the seats back in, and it's good until another module goes dead. So we're talking a 2006 Prius. That's a 15-year-old Prius in that case. So yeah, the technology's been around for a long time. It's okay. Regular mechanics know how to work on them now.
Vernon, thanks for the call tonight, man. Appreciate it. The number here is 603-283-6160. Someone who knows nothing about cars, Sarah, is on the line. You've never driven in your life, have you?
Well, I used to drive my parents' car, but
really?
But when I was young, but after a big wreck, I couldn't drive my cars anymore.
Oh, you got in a car wreck?
At least 3 of them so far. That's why I'm really afraid of cars.
That explains a lot.
Some people shouldn't be behind a wheel, and I guess you're one of them. So were you the cause of the wrecks, or were you the victim?
Well, I think I was sometimes the cause of the. I think a couple of times I was the cause of it, and one time I was the victim. But it's still traumatizing.
Yeah.
But I'm all in for the electric cars and fuel cell cars and clean environment and
But didn't you hear Matt say just a moment ago that the batteries, acquiring them, the chemicals, the things that go into these batteries,
the amount
metals,
of diesel the trucks pulling it out of the ground are using?
that you're actually going to damage the environment more just by continuing the manufacture of these things? Doesn't that concern you?
Well, I think the clean air outweighs the battery polluting part of it. That's my bent on it.
It doesn't.
Why not?
Well, she just
because the mining operation. Think about when you're taking petroleum out of the ground, right? Mm-hmm. You find petroleum, you drill a hole, you put a pump on it, you let the pump run, and it pumps petroleum out. Presto, you got fuel.
Right.
You drive a tractor trailer out there to pick up the fuel. They take it to a manufacturing plant that makes gasoline and kerosene and diesel. With this, you got to mine the minerals. You got to convert it all into a battery. The trucks that are mining the minerals are big mining machines that are running on diesel.
Yeah, they're not electric.
No, they're dirty. And it just gets worse and worse from there. And then when it comes time the battery's dead, you got to dispose of it, and it's a hazardous waste situation. That's expensive, too.
There's more coming up here. Sarah, if you want, I know you're calling for a different reason, so we'll bring you back here in hour number 3 on the way. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Jagruti Dave. A former Minnesota police officer has been found guilty of first-degree manslaughter and second-degree manslaughter in the shooting of an unarmed man during a traffic stop. Kim Potter had pleaded not guilty to the charges. Our correspondent Rachel Silverman has the details.
The former police officer, Kim Potter, claims she meant to pull her taser when she shot and killed 20-year-old Daunte Wright last April. The prosecution argued Potter had more than 2 decades of training, which should have prevented her from making such a mistake. She shot Wright after he tried to flee the scene when police tried to arrest him on a weapons warrant during a traffic stop. It's a rare guilty verdict for a police officer, likely to send her to prison for years.
The UK Health and Security Agency says people catching the Omicron variant of COVID-19 are 50 to 70% less likely to be admitted to hospital than previous variants. Data from other nations, including South Africa and Denmark, also appears to show Omicron may be less severe. Laura Macon-Isherwood reports from London.
Scientists in the UK had been cautious about drawing early conclusions about the risk the Omicron variant of COVID-19 posed to public health. But analysis from the UK Health and Security Agency suggests it could be less severe. In a report, the agency says people catching Omicron are between 50 and 70% less likely to need hospital treatment. But total COVID infection rates continue to rise across the UK, with a new daily record of 119,789 cases reported in the last 24-hour period. It's left ministers urging people to be cautious over the Christmas holidays.
The S&P 500 hit a new record high on Thursday as jitters on Wall Street over the spread of the new Omicron variant subside, and there was a slew of economic data for traders to digest ahead of the Christmas holiday. William Denslow reports from New York.
Recent studies suggesting Omicron is less likely to result in hospitalizations compared to other COVID-19 variants twins with news that an oral antiviral drug to help fight the virus has gained FDA approval has helped boost sentiment on Wall Street. US markets closed up on Thursday to mark a third straight day of gains for the major US indexes. The Dow and S&P closed up 0.6% and the Nasdaq 0.9%. Investors were also digesting a slew of economic data out Thursday, including personal spending numbers and weekly jobless claims that matched Wall Street expectations. But a key inflation gauge ticked up more than anticipated, which did dampen sentiment. US markets are closed on Friday for the Christmas holidays.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, a possible breakthrough in the treatment of peanut allergies that can be fatal for those children suffering from them. For the first time in Europe, 600 children in the UK under the age of 17 are to receive a new treatment that gradually reduces sensitivity to peanuts. The manufacturers of Palforzia say it's a pill that contains tiny doses of peanut protein that are gradually increased during the course of treatment. Dr. George Dutoit, a children's allergy consultant, was the UK's senior investigator overseeing recent trials.
The standard care at the moment, if you're diagnosed with a peanut allergy, is
very cautious avoidance of peanut means you have to be suspicious of every single meal unless you've prepared it yourself, that this may contain peanut, and that takes longer to shop, it's more expensive to shop, impacts on quality of life. And then families also need to carry emergency medicines, which, it's very stressful carrying around these adrenaline auto-injectors. We're extremely excited that this is the first licensed treatment for the moderation of peanut allergy.
It is an allergy-specific treatment. It's only currently applicable to peanuts, but researchers say they will keep a close eye on the progress of initial recipients of the therapy in a bid both to assess its effectiveness and inform other allergy projects in the future. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
The main headlines again. A former Minnesota police officer has been found guilty of first-degree manslaughter and second-degree manslaughter in the shooting of an unarmed man during a traffic stop. The UK Health and Security Agency says people catching the Omicron variant of COVID-19 are 50 to 70% less likely to be admitted to hospital than previous variants. And the S&P 500 hit a new record high as Omicron jitters on Wall Street subside. And that is the latest from Feature Story News. I'm Jagruti Dave in Washington.
For those hoping to get ahead of the work week, look no further than Overtime Plus, a new app that lets you work for your company even while you sleep. The app keeps you trapped in a constant half-awake, half-dream state where your thoughts are never far from the drudgeries of the work week. By simply laying your phone on your mattress, the app's accelerometers are able to measure your movements throughout the night, so it knows when you're close to falling into a deep sleep and losing focus of the crushing work demands ahead of you. When restful sleep is detected, the app dips into your personalized work tasks to generate a subliminal signal, like the date of an important deadline or keywords from the most damning portion of your last job review, to jostle you back into a state of productive, semi-awake agitation.
I was close to falling asleep last night, then my app started whispering my boss's name over and over again until I was awake and answering work emails at 3 in the morning.
Last night it made me dream that I was locked in the office until I could find the most optimal way to catalog the company's new server. I still haven't figured it out.
The app doesn't just keep you mentally shackled to your day job, but also serves as an alarm clock by repeatedly shouting you're late for work until you're jolted out of bed in a panic each morning.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. We're kicking off the third hour of the program. Has smartphone addiction gotten even worse during COVID? With you in the studio tonight, it's Ian,
Matt,
and Bonnie.
You can talk about whatever's on your mind, though. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Plus, a little bit of good news tonight, as a Keene police lieutenant, if you're has come out. If you're a longtime listener, you're going to remember this guy. If you've seen Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree, at least, over at victimlesscrimespree.com. I don't mean he's come out as gay. He's come out
yet.
He's come out as an advocate for mass civil disobedience. And I love it. We'll tell you more about it on the way here. And we've also got a nobody quote from a co-host here on Free Talk Live, who sadly is prohibited by his bail conditions from hosting Free Talk Live or being interviewed on any radio or television program.
Illegally. Like, that's just what we have to say. It literally is illegal.
It's terrible what they're doing to him. But as part of the Crypto 6. You can go to thecrypto6.com to learn more about that case. Bonnie, you've been collecting quotes from Nobody, and we've been sharing them on the air. So these are quotes of things that he said in the past. So he's not on the air. These are things, classic Nobody quotes. Here's one of them. Your government today is doing things that you think only other people's governments do. It is engaged in murder. It is engaged in extortion. And that's just the start of it.
Yeah, I think he went off on a longer rant after that.
Yeah, but that's a good one. Thanks, Nobody, for that quote.
He never goes off on rants. Oh, wait.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, I miss him.
Totally.
And he makes an interesting point here, and that is that people just don't want to believe it's true about their government.
It's just so normal to them.
Right. Oh, no, our government respects rights.
Not even close.
There's a constitution.
Yeah, that quote, he nailed it. Nobody hits the nail on the head on a very regular basis as far as his criticisms of the government goes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it also reminds me of Dave Ridley's article he posted today about independence on Free Keene. It starts off with a picture that I was like, what the heck am I looking at? and it was
It's a torture photo.
A picture of a guy being tortured in like Iraq or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, why does it start off with that? And he says, this is the type of thing your federal government is doing. This is why we need to break away from. This is what we're up against.
And they don't really see, I see government people kind of as their own anarchists. They're just not non-aggressionist anarchists.
What do you mean by that?
They don't believe in government for themselves.
Oh, right.
But they will inflict all sorts of pain on anybody else that they don't see as one of them.
Yep, that's true. So back to Sarah, somebody that loves the government gang. Sarah, have you ever seen a government that you didn't like, Sarah?
Well, you know what? I really wanted to talk about Toronto, Canada, or is it Toledo, Canada? I just want to mention that I was watching a travel show, and there are many Jamaican restaurants up there. And I was thinking, why is there so many Jamaican restaurants and immigrants? And I was just pondering, and what happened was that both of the countries have they're communist. I made Jamaican friends, and they have told me that Jamaica have turned communist, and that's why they were sanctioned in the past, and they had economic problems. And of course, Canada has a large communist party, and that's why they had the universal health care. So in a roundabout way, I was poking in my mind, and that was the reason why they had so many Jamaican immigrants.
I don't know if
I
that
don't buy that.
really makes sense. I actually know somebody from Toronto, and he told me that it's the most diverse place in the world. And I was like, oh, is that like a fact? And he said, to his knowledge, it's the most diverse place in the world. So it makes sense that, Jamaicans can cook.
I'm suspicious in New York City right now, but okay.
Right. Yeah, but so a lot of the ethnic people are welcome there. And so, but that's what
Well, first of all, what I have to say to this, Sarah, is if it's true, and I don't know if it's true, I've not researched Jamaica's current political makeup or its makeup of politics over the last 2 or 3 decades or whatever, but if it's true what you're saying, and Jamaica is a communist country, which I don't buy that necessarily, because I've never heard it listed in the realms of Cuba and Venezuela and North Korea. They don't throw in Jamaica when you talk about current communist countries on the face of the planet right now. But let's give that to you and say that that's true. Usually what you will see happen, Sarah, is people will leave a communist country if they can get out of that place. So if that's true, then those people went to Toronto to escape from communism, not because Toronto is specifically a communist place. In fact, Canada tends to rank on the top, if I recall correctly, the top 10 countries as far as economic freedom of the world. And I'll have to pull up one of the latest studies to see where it's currently ranked at. But if they're in the top 10 of economic free countries, they are not a communist country, because
as much as they're trying.
What do you mean?
Well, what I'm saying is that they have communist leaning. In other words, left wing, instead of going. What they would call that going towards the
Toronto
left,
had a Republican crack-smoking mayor for a while, so no, I don't know if I believe you when you say that they're leaning communist.
Well, but this is what I was told for the Communist Party. But see, you remember a long time ago, Jamaica had a lot of economic crisis. I remember maybe 25 years ago, and I've asked Jamaican friends as to why were they having so much economic problems, and what they have told me was that they were communists, they were brothers, and socialists, and the Jamaicans decided to go communist way, and then that's when they start getting the sanctions. And so the economic collapse that you always talk about is because they impose sanctions. Like
I know that's the standard line from the communist governments of the world, and it's absolute malarkey. Now, I will say this. Sanctions are definitely not a good thing, and I oppose them. I don't think that the government gangs of the world should be imposing sanctions. Just let people make decisions on their own about who they want to deal with around the world. So they certainly don't help a given country. But if you look at, for instance, Venezuela, which is in a very, climatic zone. It's in an easy place to grow crops, and
it floats like a raft on an ocean of oil.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of natural resources there. There's no reason why, even with sanctions, that Venezuela should be as piss poor as it currently is. It's because of socialism. It's because of communism. Is why.
There was a boat full of coconuts and coconut milk going to North Korea, and then they seized the boat, going from Singapore, I think the capitalists, the United States government, they say you cannot ship that to North Korea because they have to make the communists fail. I mean, that was on the news about maybe, I think, a year and a half ago.
It makes me so angry when she calls the federal government of the United States capitalist.
They are not capitalists.
Yeah, Sarah doesn't really understand communism. We talked about it the other night. She just loves it, and she knows nothing about the history. Denies everything about the torture and the murder regarding the communist dictators and such. Right, Sarah? Like to you, Stalin's a good guy.
But here's the thing: is that what I really believe? I think they twisted it around. I think that they were killed in fighting the revolution. In other words, right now, if there was a war that breaks out with Ukraine and the Russian soldiers at the border,
how many millions of your neighbors do you have to?
What they would say is that Putin killed all of the Russian soldiers. That's how.
Okay, well, it's not a communist country right now. So let's go back to communism, where Stalin murdered millions of people in Russia. And Lenin.
They basically, in order to make communism look good to the people in their core areas, which was in Russia, especially in the cities, they had to keep them well fed and very happy looking, in the society very clean with modern cars and so forth. So what they did in order to do that was they took all of the food and resources from places like Ukraine and starved the people of Ukraine to death. Something like, what was it, 30 million people died in Ukraine in that area during that time, the Holodomor, right?
Well,
I had not heard of that.
The Holodomor is a giant, basically not an aggressive genocide, but a passive genocide, where kind of like what England did to the Irish during the 1800s, and they just took everything there was to take and left the people with nothing.
By the way, there is a large Jamaican community in Toronto. 3.4% of the city is Jamaican. So if you want some good Jamaican food, get on up there. Although you can't really go to Canada right now because it's like a total lockdown state. It's just awful. Sarah, thanks for the call, I guess. The number here is 603-283-6160. And I got the ranking for Canada, by the way, in the Economic Freedom Rankings. Not quite as high as I thought, but it's still top 20. More coming up. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover springs her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
Are you tired of governments around the world killing innocent people? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin is money that cannot be inflated or controlled by any state. By continuing to use their money, you're perpetuating the killing. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available to you now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. It's Bitcoin.com.
The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live, phones open if you want to join us. And the show is Free Talk Live. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Coming up at the end of the year, New Year's Eve, we will be doing a special Freer Talk Live episode. And during that episode, that comes after the radio show is over, we'll start at probably around 10:30 Eastern. You can join us there, and we'll talk about whatever the hell we want. And we don't have the FCC getting in the way in that particular case. Plus, we'll be giving away a BitBox. This will be the second BitBox giveaway that we're going to do. And everybody who is a Free Talk Live supporter via the AMPS program will be qualified to win. So yet another reason, another perk to consider becoming one of the Free Talk Live amps. You can do that over at amps.freetalklive.com. But what is the BitBox? It is a hardware cryptocurrency wallet specifically for those using Bitcoin, BTC, Litecoin, and Ethereum. If you are big into those, you definitely want to check out the BitBox. Again, 100% open source. You can go and get your own right now over at box.freetalklive.com. That's box.freetalklive.com. Use code FTL. You'll save 5% there. But again, one of our amps will be the winner of that coming up New Year's Eve on Freer Talk Live. So whether you want to continue to talk about communism, which is why what Sarah was calling in about, and there's obviously a lot to say. Unfortunately, she will not listen to a single word of it because she's convinced that it's some sort of a good thing to force people into a system that she thinks is better than others. And if indeed the system is so good, then you shouldn't need to use force. You should be able to just get people to sign on board.
Well, she doesn't believe in killing capitalists. She believes in putting them in jail.
In prison. Yeah, she said that last night. By the way, Canada number 14 on the World Economic Freedom Rankings. This according to the Fraser Institute. And I thought that they were higher ranked than that. But still, that still puts them in the top 20. And that means they are relatively economically free. So no.
As far as like horrible governments go, which is all we have.
And they are horrible. And there's no doubt Canada has gotten a lot worse in just the last 2 years. And to be fair, these statistics are from 2019. Canada is one of the most locked down countries in North America. They're probably the most locked down. Right? Because you look at Mexico, they're relatively open. The U.S., it's a patchwork. And Canada, straight across the board. I mean, maybe the Northern Territories have some more freedom. I don't know. I don't hear much about what goes on there, but it's bad. Like, you cannot leave Canada now unless you are vaccinated.
That's loony.
Whoa.
Yep.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, as I understand it, they just put that into place as far as international travel is concerned. You must be
understand
vaccinated.
You cannot come into Canada unless you're vaccinated, but shouldn't it be the choice of the other country? If you,
yeah, you would think.
Yeah.
But
if you want to leave.
This is the problem with, what we were talking about earlier. It's like, get to where you want to be. Because if you are in a place like New York or California or Illinois or some of the states in the United States that are more likely to go in that Canadian direction and start locking down their borders and start keeping people in the state. There was a headline I just saw as I was scrolling through social media a few moments ago that New York has had record numbers of people leave. And at some point, the New York government gang might say, well, we don't want to lose all these people.
They don't care.
You don't think?
No.
What if people keep leaving who are business owners and taking...
There's just so many people there.
It doesn't matter because the entire state will run right off of New York City for eternity, and they're fine with that, and that's all they care about. They have never cared about upstate.
Oh, I thought you meant the city.
I'm not clear on where the people are leaving from in New York. I imagine a lot of them are leaving from the city, but also elsewhere. And it's a smart thing to do.
Yeah.
There was Justin O'Donnell, who's he's not a Free State Project person, but he's a Liberty guy here in New Hampshire who migrated here for the not for the freedom migration, but he moved here and then found out about what was happening and he stuck around. But he interviewed Larry Sharp, who is the New York State Libertarian not presidential, but gubernatorial candidate there. I guess he's run at least once, maybe more than once, for the governorship there, and he's one of those delusionals that's just, he believes he's going to somehow change things in New York, and he's going to stick it out. Someone needs to stay and fight. It's kind of the mentality, and it's like, why? There's no shame in admitting defeat and saying, you know what, this isn't working out. It's okay to say, hey, let's try something different. Let's try something that actually is a proven success. And that is, because, we're not just talking about some sort of speculative movement here. We're talking about a thing that now has nearly 2 decades of track record. And success after success. The migration of freedom-loving activists to New Hampshire has been an incredible success story here. Whether you want to join the Free State Project or just get up and move, it's up to you. But you've got to get here if you care about liberty.
I want to throw something on top of that.
As a former New Yorker?
As a former New Yorker. Not really as a former New Yorker, but
as a native?
As a Free State Project participant, as a freedom migration.
You moved almost a decade ago now?
No, 2013. So yeah, it's 7 years. Almost 8 years. I can't believe it's been that long. It goes fast, guys.
Yeah.
Move here. Stop wasting your precious life moments somewhere that hates you. Move here where there's other people like you. So that said, we've talked in the recent past about how Twitter is on fire. The Free State Project Twitter page is just outstanding.
Oh, yeah. Jeremy Kaufman's running that thing, and he's killing it.
Crushing it. Well, now... I don't know if you've heard of this. Have you heard of the Progressive State Swap application?
Well, I know the Progressive State Project is sort of a humorous takeoff on the Free State Project.
So
created by Free Staters.
There's a Google Doc, and this has been posted publicly, where you will be paid if you leave New Hampshire if you're a socialist or someone who finds it abhorrent in the direction that New Hampshire's going, like awesome. the liberty direction. If you don't like the liberty direction, these guys will pay to move you wherever you want to go.
How much money?
There's a whole questionnaire associated with it. What do you describe yourself as? What are your political leanings? What's your email address? I'll read it to you. Are you a progressive or socialist currently living in New Hampshire? Are you dissatisfied with the direction the state is headed? Are you dedicated to progressive and socialist values? Do you dream of moving to a state that is more aligned with your values? Would you like financial help to migrate to that state? The winners of this contest will illustrate how libertarians and progressives can work together to ease political tensions by swapping one libertarian and one progressive between states.
It's a win-win.
That's awesome.
It's a win-win. Moving them each to states that more align with their political values. This program will pay for A, a moving company to pack your stuff.
Wow.
B, a moving company to transport your stuff. C, transportation to your party to your new home state. And D, a down payment on a rental in your new home state.
Amazing.
Wow. And the thing is, Alu, I don't know if he's a part of this, but he was a part of the original
Progressive
State Project. He's seriously,
I can see that.
He's not joking when he says he wants to help the progressives get out, because it's seriously a place that is getting more and more
I don't know who made this, but I would not doubt it if he had a heavy hand in it.
And he's not joking, He's not just trolling.
No,
he actually wants to help.
This looks for real. That's got a maybe 10 or 12 questions that they ask.
The question is, will someone actually take him up on it?
I hope so.
I hope so too. There was one lady who posted on Twitter about how she was frustrated with New Hampshire. She wanted to get out, but she can't afford it. And there were it got shared around with the Free Staters, and there were really honest offers of assistance that were posted. So I don't know if she took it seriously or took him up on it, but as long as they can prove they're not going to come back, I think they should sign an agreement saying they will never set foot in New Hampshire again.
Absolutely.
More coming up.
If you want to bring more liberty into your community, there's something you should see. Intercoin, the movement you might want to join. If you like Bitcoin, break through. It's true. It's truly something new. If you'd like to see real prosperity, start your own currency, boost the economy. Intercoin, the movement you might want to join. If you like Bitcoin, its impact's hard to overstate, results you can appreciate. If you're tired of relying on the state, want to make your own community great, homelessness and hunger to eliminate, let the wealth accumulate. Don't wait for the growth rate to accelerate. Go to intercoin.org and get the coins for yourself.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Jagruti Dave. A former Minnesota police officer has been found guilty of first-degree manslaughter and second-degree manslaughter in the shooting of an unarmed man during a traffic stop. Kim Potter had pleaded not guilty to the charges. Our correspondent Rachel Silverman has the details.
The former police officer, Kim Potter, claims she meant to pull her taser when she shot and killed 20-year-old Daunte Wright last April. The prosecution argued Potter had more than 2 decades of training, which should have prevented her from making such a mistake. She shot Wright after he tried to flee the scene when police tried to arrest him on a weapons warrant during a traffic stop. It's a rare guilty verdict for a police officer, likely to send her to prison for years.
The UK Health and Security Agency says people catching the Omicron variant of COVID-19 are 50 to 70% less likely to be admitted to hospital than previous variants. Data from other nations, including South Africa and Denmark, also appears to show Omicron may be less severe. Laura Macon-Isherwood reports from London.
Scientists in the UK had been cautious about drawing early conclusions about the risk the Omicron variant of COVID-19 posed to public health. But analysis from the UK Health and Security Agency suggests it could be less severe. In a report, the agency says people catching Omicron are between 50 and 70% less likely to need hospital treatment. But total COVID infection rates continue to rise across the UK, with a new daily record of 119,789 cases reported in the last 24-hour period. It's left ministers urging people to be cautious over the Christmas holidays amid continued concerns that hospitals could be placed under significant strain.
The S&P 500 hit a new record high on Thursday as jitters on Wall Street over the spread of the new Omicron variant subside, and there was a slew of economic data for traders to digest ahead of the Christmas holiday. William Denslow reports from New York.
Recent studies suggesting Omicron is less likely to result in hospitalizations compared to other COVID-19 variants twined with news that an oral antiviral drug to help fight the virus has gained FDA approval has helped boost sentiment on Wall Street. US markets closed up on Thursday to mark a third straight day of gains for the major US indexes. The Dow and S&P closed up 0.6% and the Nasdaq 0.9%. Investors were also digesting a slew of economic data out Thursday, including personal spending numbers and weekly jobless claims that matched Wall Street expectations. But a key inflation gauge ticked up more than anticipated, which did dampen sentiment. US markets are closed on Friday for the Christmas holidays.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live. You can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. With you in the studio tonight, we've got Ian, Matt,
and Bonnie.
We will continue with more of your calls and thoughts. Plus, we got the smartphone addiction story still to come here. If you want to join us, though, you can take control of the airwaves here on Free Talk Live. Again, 603-283-6160. We're going to go back to CW. He tried to call in earlier, got disconnected accidentally. CW, you're on Free Talk Live, calling us from Arizona, listening to K-Talks. Go ahead.
Hello, my friends. I just have a couple things to say.
Sure.
Earlier is about those little blowy thingies for DUI driving and all that crap.
Yeah.
Typically, I think what they would do with those units, they would just hook it up to the ignition wires, so you could easily bypass them by just wiring them correctly, so you can just bypass it. Is that not unless they want to invest all the money to make all the ECUs? They want to reprogram all the ECUs with chips and all that to make it so you can't bypass them easily. You know what I'm saying?
Well, what we were talking about earlier isn't old technology. We're talking about new technology for blood alcohol content detection that they're talking about putting in all new vehicles manufactured as soon as 2026. And so it will not be the method that you're talking about. Whatever it's going to be is not going to be that method.
They haven't decided, though. It would be something they read through your skin or something through the air of the entire cabin, apparently.
Those are two options, and those are, who knows what else is going to be on the table by the time 5 more years goes by. So the idea is you're not just going to be able to swap some wires and disable this. It'll be part and parcel to every brand new car and, tied in with whatever computer system they have.
Okay, so they are going to integrate it into the ECU, so now all cars are going to cost at least $10,000 more.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be way more expensive.
All right. That was just my first point. Food stamps, you know what I'm saying? I'm not a communist like Sarah, so, I have been on food stamps before, and I lied about being homeless once, so I can get $400 a month on food stamps, but guess what? I still work through the food stamps. So I was double dipping, So would you call me a capitalist because I love getting food stamps and I would get my cash pay from my job?
I think the word opportunist to be more fitting, and that's okay, you know what? There's in libertarian circles that comes up. A lot of people's take on that is, I've been robbed all these years. Shouldn't I take it back? Take back whatever I can get back,
as long as you're willing to subject yourself to whatever they're going to do to you, because they want you to fill out forms and bend over and jump through hoops or whatever, and
they might come after you later on and say, hey, you're going to pay this back now.
Who knows? You can't trust those people. CW, anything else you want to share?
One more thing about stereotypes.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I don't want to sound racist or anything. I know I'm going to sound so racist by saying this. Right, this isn't my intent, but Sarah is Korean, right?
I have no idea. She said
her grandma was from there, so she must be at least part.
She did say her grandma was Korean.
She did,
and she loved Korea. She didn't escape Korea. But you guys were saying yesterday that you have to escape Korea because you can't just leave. You have to escape.
Well, North Korea.
Okay.
Yeah.
So. Okay, oh my gosh, I'm going to try to get this. Okay, well, she said she's been in accidents about 3 to 10 times. I know it's not 10, but...
And she said she drove for less than a few years.
Don't all Asians always get in car accidents?
I don't know.
It is a thing that people say, and I presume they would say it more about Asian women, but I don't know.
I'll tell you, I lived in Ithaca, New York for 4 years, and if you ride a motorcycle in Ithaca, New York, you are out of your mind.
Why, is there a lot of Asian drivers there?
Cornell University has a ton of Chinese international students, and they are...
I didn't want to sound racist. I'm sorry for bringing that up.
It is what it is.
I didn't know that was a real thing. My friend Megan, she's never been in a car accident. And I have been in lots of car accidents, and I'm white, and Megan is Chinese.
Thanks for the call tonight, CW. I appreciate it. The number here is 603-283-6160. Has anybody ever looked into why that is?
I don't think it's true.
I think I think it's just cultural. I think certain, Americans aren't great drivers compared to Germans. New Yorkers aren't great drivers compared to Vermonters.
It could definitely be true if you're talking about somebody from Asia. Then I can always see how something like that could be, a stereotype that has something to do with a person from another country can be true. But if it's just like somebody's race and they're American, probably has nothing to do with how good of a driver they are.
Nah.
But yeah, I can see what you mean.
Geographical and cultural. I don't think it has anything to do with race, right? Or,
Even people from different cities drive differently.
Yeah.
All right, well, here's an interesting post from the AAA. So the AAA looked at some numbers from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, who's been recording traffic fatalities by race since 1999. And the evidence shows that driving accidents are the leading cause of death for all races, ages 4 to 34. And that said, in 2006, the crash fatality rates for the Hispanic, white, and African American populations were very similar. So 12.27, 12.5, and 12.31 deaths per 100,000 people, respectively. So pretty much statistically the same. The real differences show up with Asians, whose fatality rate was only 4 deaths per 100,000. So according to the AAA, at least they're only looking at 1 year here, but in 2006, Asians were actually safer drivers by significant factors.
Wow, not in Ithaca. Stay out of there. Drive with a full road cage or a big automobile in that city because you're gonna get crushed.
Who was the worst at driving? According to the numbers, it was Native Americans, whose rate was more than twice the national average as far as deaths per 100,000 at 31.17 deaths per 100,000. Now, of course, you want to talk about stereotypes. They're stereotyped at being drunk more often, right? So I don't know if that's a factor. I'm just saying it's a stereotype. So the number 603-283-6160. You can join us here. All right. So one thing that's definitely going to cause you to have an accident in the car is too much smartphone use behind the steering wheel. It's incredibly dangerous.
One of the accidents I got into is because I was turning on Postmates, and then next thing I know, my freaking car is totaled.
Oof. Was that where you ran into like a pole or something?
Yeah, I ran into a stupid, pointless sign that said something about... I don't even know. It wasn't a stop sign or a yield sign. It said...
Watch out for a deaf 3-year-old.
No, it said something like, now you're in this county. So stupid and pointless. And then some standard by tried to call the police, so that way I had to pay for it. Somehow, I don't even know how I got out of that.
Well, you would have had to have been towed, right? You said you totaled the car.
Well, yeah, my car got towed. I'm saying
Cops
I don't know. I don't know why I didn't get...
Just throw it into reverse and end up in the other county. That way...
It was something like that, and it made me so mad that it even was there.
Smartphone addiction, according to studyfinds.org, was a common problem before 2020, but a new study has found that constantly scrolling through your mobile device is actually making the pandemic feel worse for many. Researchers in Germany found that too much smartphone use during COVID-19 leads to poor self-control, increased fear of missing out, and repeatedly dwelling on negative news.
I think that's just true all the time. It has nothing to do with quote-unquote pandemic.
Well, they're saying that over the last 2 years, the study finds cell phone use has skyrocketed as the world deals with ongoing changes in their daily lives. Study authors are hopeful their work can produce new strategies for reducing smartphone overuse. Quote, problematic smartphone use is fostered by the interaction of loss of control, fear of missing out, and repetitive negative thinking. So it's an escape for people, basically, that they can go to this smartphone, which I want to get deeper into the discussion here because I think it's a problem for a lot of people these days. I admit I'm on the thing too often. You can join us here. The number 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. If you want to talk about your addiction to the smart devices, you're welcome to join us here. Or you can bring up whatever's on your mind. 603-283-6160. You can join us here on Free Talk Live.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to mymagicmud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. mymagicmud.com, FTL20.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
There are basically two types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. Number here is 603-283-6160. We just had a guy call in talking about Asian drivers, and I was just doing a little bit more digging on that question. According to AugustaFreePress.com, they talked to insurance actuaries who, crunch numbers all day long, and they look at statistics, and that's kind of their job. According to their data, they say here that Asians in the United States pay less for insurance on average, which means that they are safer drivers on average. They say that this story published 2018. According to the numbers, auto insurance premiums for all drivers come out to just north of $900 per year, or about $75 per month. Then you break it out into racial categories. The average Asian driver in the U.S. is actually paying an annual premium of about $815 per year. So about 10% less than the average driver in the U.S. Kind of interesting. So we were talking about smartphone use, and is it worse now under the COVID situation than it was before? I mean, it was obviously a problem before. I think everybody, who's had experience with these devices knows their addictive potential. And if you're honest with yourself, you probably spend more time than you'd like to on one of these things. So researchers, according to studyfinds.org, put together an online survey speaking with 516 adult smartphone users. The poll, conducted in April and May of this year, asked people about their typical smartphone habits, as well as questions regarding self-control, fear of missing out, and how often they think negatively. The results showed that all three factors show a direct connection with greater severity of problematic smartphone use. While the observational study cannot pinpoint an exact cause for this, researchers add the data suggests all four factors may play off each other to create a larger problem for mobile phone users. For instance, fear of missing out can play directly into a person's low sense of self-control, leading to problematic smartphone use. Moreover, a tendency toward repetitive thinking appears to have a strong relationship with FOMO and excessive smartphone use.
I think that the whole adding the word pandemic to your news article thing is just a result of you get more clicks. I think that this article could have been written at any time. It's always going to be bad for your mental health to be constantly scrolling on Instagram.
Jay was over here the other day, one of the Free Talk Live, Jay Noon. Yep. He's a host sometimes here on Free Talk Live, actually. But I was jabbering with him the other day, and he was mentioning, and he's so right when he said this, but he said, he doesn't like the smartphone thing. He said it's just dopamine hit after dopamine hit after dopamine hit, and people are chasing that dopamine hit. So people probably aren't necessarily dedicated, addicted to the smartphone as much as they are the dopamine hit that the smartphone helps them release.
Yeah. I often will just text my friends that I talk to the most on social media, here's my number, and I'm going to delete Instagram for a few days. And I always feel so much better whenever I do it, but eventually I'll be like, I want to know what's going on with this person, or something, and then I get back on, and then I forget that I ever...
Right back into your old habits.
Yeah, I get right back into my old habits. But I do it pretty often, and it always gets me really productive and happier. It's just that, I don't know, I wish that there was a way to do it in a more, I don't know, it feels like there's no way to have it on your phone and not be addicted to it. Like every single
You can't control your use of the app, is what you're saying.
I can, I just don't.
Yeah, I mean, it's a thing with people who have an addiction, is using any amount of the thing leads to a greater use of that thing. It's very, very difficult for whether we're talking about the use of alcohol or nicotine or one of these dopamine deliverers like Instagram or Facebook or whatever we're talking about here.
Facebook did me a great service as far as becoming unaddicted to the cell phone. Facebook did me a great service by blocking me 30 days in a row, twice in a row, with only like a day and a half break between the two bans.
Are you still blocked?
No, I'm unblocked now, but I don't go on anymore.
That's
good. I do. I mean, I was on it 3 or 4. I think I posted 3 times today, but some like I'll remotely share from somewhere else into Facebook, but I don't actually go check on the post always.
Yeah, like if you're reading an article, you can share.
Yeah, Nikki made me breakfast this morning. I took a picture of it and put it on Facebook, and people laughed at it or whatever, but I don't get my news there.
You're not hooked on it.
No, and I find now that I haven't been on it, when I go check out the news feed on Facebook, it's depressing. Yeah. It's trash. The people who are on there are all depressed and acting like trash to each other and to themselves. And
I don't miss it. I haven't been on it since 2018.
And I know, and I'm jealous. I remember when you gave it up. I'm like, you sure you want to do that, dude? Come on. I was like the drug dealer on the playground trying to get you to come back into Facebook.
Well, here's the thing, and they actually point out here in the final part of this article is that they think the smartphone addiction actually makes the problems worse. So, like you're saying, people on Facebook already are kind of down and out, and it's a negative place to be.
It's horrible.
It's the ghetto of the internet.
It really is.
And so then you're feeling negative, and you go to this negative place, and so it's like this feedback loop of negativity, while at the same time you're still getting the dopamine hit, right? So like you're getting the, new thing, new thing, but it's negative. Oh, new thing, but it's negative. And then, people are arguing. Oh, but and it's not good for you.
I can't just let this idiot commie be.
Yeah.
I have to trash them here and now, or the world will come to a complete stop.
Yeah, when I was looking for nobody quotes recently, I went to his Twitter, and I spent like an hour scrolling backwards in his tweets and replies, because apparently his second job from Free Talk Live, his side job was going and arguing with commies on Twitter.
Wow. But there's got to be some good quotes.
He is great at arguing with commies, yeah.
Well, he kind of came from that background a little bit, too.
Right, that's true. It's true. So people are, they get hooked on this stuff, and it just creates this feedback cycle where the problems just get worse. So I got to say, the best thing you can do, if you cannot wean yourself off of it, is to just quit cold turkey. And in my case, I did wean myself off in regards to Facebook. I started to implement my own control system where I would not check the notifications until it hit 5, because I would always check it at 1. As soon as there was 1, I would check it.
I always have to click on that one. And even if it's something like I see it pop up already, I have to get rid of the one.
Yeah, that they know that, and they know that system is very attractive for people. So I went to 5, and so I would only click it when it was at 5. I would just refuse until it was at 5, and then I would go to 10, and then I went to 20, and then I went to 30, and then 50, and then eventually it was at like 75, and then if you actually get to 99, it stops. Like the number does not go past 99. And what I noticed once I started to get up in the 30 and 50 range was that usually when I would click on it, kind of like you were saying, Matt, it was just garbage. Like there was actually not really anything there that I even really wanted to be notified about. And then I realized that I'm just completely wasting my time even waiting until 70 or whatever, and then trying to read through all this, because it's just not even worth reading through it.
I found another interesting little...
And then I walked away from it completely.
Yeah, good for you. And I found another little interesting data piece that helped me actually hit the eject button on Facebook even a little more because of Facebook. When I was on Facebook constantly, it's like they remembered stuff about me. They knew how to get to me. Interestingly, when you're gone for 60 days, Facebook starts to forget what your preferences are.
No way.
Yeah, they didn't. They were showing me stuff that I had no interest in at all. Like lots of it. My entire newsfeed made no sense. I was like, what do I care about this for? None of it.
So strange.
Yeah.
After the FBI raid, it actually cured me of watching these stupid Snapchat stories for the longest time. Like, I used to be like, why am I looking at this? These are so boring. They're usually just like, they appeal to the lowest common denominator. They're so stupid. I see a headline or whatever. I click on it because that looks interesting. Then I'm looking at something unrelated, and they have so many ads. Ian gets so annoyed with the ads. But for the longest time, I just completely was cured from looking at them because I had my phone taken away by the FBI. But now I'm kind of back on it.
TikTok's the same way for me. People send me a TikTok thing, and I'll watch it, and then it'll spin into the other thing, into another thing, and I'm like, how do people do this for more than one thing at a time? This is garbage.
Seriously, I can't have TikTok on my phone, because when I did for like a month in 2020, I was like, this is an issue.
Did you guys hear that TikTok is now the #1 website past Google? It's #1. Google is no longer, meaning it passed Google. Google was #1. Now TikTok is #1.
How? It is so bad.
In the news. It's in the news now.
Well, if you
People
get
are just
into
all over that site. They love it.
If you get into the internet enclave of TikTok that you're interested in, it's usually like so interesting. Like, I bet there's a really cool guns section of TikTok. And there's all kinds of
TikTok militia.
There's all kinds of things I like on there. So I could get stuck for the rest of my life on TikTok. That's why I just don't even have it on my phone.
Out of time for tonight, but whether you want to talk about internet addiction, or I'll save the good cop story for you for tomorrow night, because that's a really interesting one. But if you want to see it sooner, you can just go to freekeen.com. I published it tonight about one of the bad guys in victimless crime spree turning good.
Plot twist.
Yeah.
He's
saw
confused.
that one coming. See you tomorrow. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix